Thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm with you, like, yeah.
We'll let you know.
Meeting, like, starting, brunch break the next. I think it's. Yes. We're falling. Yeah. Ready there? All set, yes. Good evening. My name is Sally Anthony. I am the city councilwoman, chair of the committee on finance. I'm calling to order the meeting on Thursday, May 11th at 5:30. Yeah. That clerk, could you read the roll call?
Chairwoman Helen D. Anthony, Vice Chairman Juan Pichardo is absent. Councilman James Taylor,
Here.
Councilor Sue Engelbart,
Here.
Councilor Miguel Sanchez.
Here.
We have 4 present, 1 absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd also like to recognize that we have some counselors joining us this evening. So we've got Councilor Kevin Peterson, with that Councilor Austin Vargas. We have our Senior Assistant City Solicitor and Rob is here, and Claire, and we've got Julie Polanco, who are wonderful for us this evening. So thank you so much. First, I'd like to entertain a motion to amend the agenda to include Nate Urso, traffic engineer, Department of Public Works for discussion. May I have a motion? And second. Motion made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Santa. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Then I would also like to mark as exhibit 15, we're gonna start right off the bat, doing that first. Patrick, okay, all right. Madam Clerk, would you call the first agenda item?
Item number 1, resolution authorizing approval of the following contract award by the Board of Contract and Supply in accordance with section 21-26B1. Bentley Builders Inc. Parks Department, $1,452,000, 849. I'm sorry, $1,452,849,000.
Thank you. Who do we have here this evening that's presenting on this? Thank you. Very nice to see you. We'll have you sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name for the record.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you for having me. Have a seat. And we will let you kick off the presentation.
Just really briefly, this is for a contract for the Red Panda exhibit at the zoo. It is funded, it's a joint project with the Parks Department, Rhode Island Zoological Society. It's to give the pandas a new habitat, particularly climate control, so we can keep them in New England, and they are so darn cute. And they really be able to give them a much nicer, and much better experience.
Wonderful. And the amount of the contract.
Okay, teeny tiny print here, 1,452,949. 849. Yes, that's right. Contacts are a little done.
Okay, committee members, do we have any questions? No questions apparently on the Red Panda exhibit.
That's a good question.
Yes, well, maybe Chancellor.
So it looks like we had 2 bids and this was the lowest bid, but were both bids relevant, or was this one just the best and the lowest?
That's the lowest, and it was the second, there were 3 bids, and we this is the second time it went out to bid. The first time it was a clerical error with all 3 bids.
Thank you. And just, if you could just tell us the timing of the project and maybe you think you might have it completed.
So I think this is, we're looking at this time next year, that this exhibit should be online.
Okay. I don't have any questions, need to start that. Okay, then I'll ask for a motion.
That's.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I'll second.
Oh,
Okay, so the motion is made by
I don't think I've seen this.
Councilor Pichardo, seconded by Councilor Taylor.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, yes. Okay, all in favor?
I.
All opposed? Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, you read item 2.
Item number 2, resolution authorizing approval of the following contract award by the Board of Contract and Supply in accordance with section 21-26B1, Torado Architects, Public Property, $2,859,000.
Okay, and who do we have here to present this evening?
Jonathan Martin, Director of Public Property.
In Connor Valley, Deputy Director.
Joe DeSanti, Director of Project Management, Down Construction.
Wonderful. Okay, please swear them in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name.
Jonathan Martin.
And,
Thank you.
thank you for coming this evening.
It's great to be here, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you. Before I turn it over to Deputy Director Ponarelli and Mr. DeSanti to talk a little bit about the bidding process and then what this contract entails, I just want to open with that this is for a school out to bid for a contract for design services, architectural services for Mary Fogarty Elementary School. And so at the end, when this is all said and done, it's going to be a great project because currently underway, right next door, is a $2 million project that is being done by the Parks Department at Harriet and Sales Park. So when this is all said and done, you're going to have a new park, Harriet and Sales Park, which has design elements within it, which includes outdoor classroom. And then you're going to have a new elementary school right next to it, which is what we're starting the design process now. And I open with that just because I want to alleviate any concerns. I know there's discussion that we are going to undo the $2 million of work that has been done on Harriet Sales Park as we go ahead and build the school. And I just want to assure the members of the committee that that is not our intent. In a perfect world, when you're building a new park and a new school, you would have started with the school and then done the park, but this isn't a perfect world. It's a complex world. So as we go out to bid and work with the architect that hopefully will be awarded tonight, our guidance to them is that hey, this $2 million has been spent. How can we work and design and approach the construction project so it does not affect the project? And with that, Madam Chair, I'll let Ms. Bonarelli talk a little bit about the bidding process.
So the bidding process, we went out to bid on February 27th. We had a mandatory pre-bid on March 7th. And then we opened the bids on March 27th. We had 2 bids, Torado Architects and Perkins Eastman. And Torado Architects came in significantly lower, about $1 million, and we wanted to award them as the lowest qualified bidder.
So this next phase, as we move into the actual formal design of the project, up until now, we've been doing successful designs to get from the right stage 1 to stage 2. We're now moving into the stage 3 portion of that. All of these costs up to 91% are reimbursable, number 1. And we're also going to start doing further detailed investigation on site, soil borings, as well as placement of building, utilities. This is a critical next step that we have to do with bringing the design team on board, as well as coordinating with that park project.
And if we could have clarification, so this is a brand new school that's going in?
Yes, correct. The current plan is to demolish the existing school and to build a brand new pre-K 8.
Okay, any questions from our? Any comments? Yes. Yes.
Thank you guys for being here. I also first want to say thank you so much. I know that you've been working a lot with our staff at the council to map out all the projects that are underway and what we could be doing to like lower all the greenhouse gas emissions. So I want to just like thank you for that. I know we're underway. met prior meetings, I've been asking like, what are all the projects in process? And so thank you for working on that behind the scenes. And I'll look forward to seeing that as it moves through. The question I have is, can you describe like, what all are we getting for the $2.859 million? Like, is it, you're describing this, is this the design phase? Is there any building? Like, what all is included? There wasn't a lot in it.
Yeah, so this part of the phase for Providence is just the design, so they will be the architect of record. So they'll be doing the schematic design, design development, and eventually doing the construction documents. We will be moving in the near future to issue an RFP for the construction manager to work alongside them as well. And that'll be the next critical side of it, with the construction team joining probably within the next 4 to 6 months at the latest. But they will be working with the community, taking our information that we've developed right now. They'll be working with us, the city, PPSD, to take the programming that we've put together, the needs, and start putting an actual building together. It's something that is going to be beneficial to the community, the park, and sensitive to the rest.
And you're saying that RFP will be what we'll see in the next 46 months for that construction?
Yeah, I would say within 4 months or less, maybe now that I'm thinking about timelines, we probably want to bring that construction manager on board. So what we want to do is bring them together early on to make sure that their design is within the cost that we have allocated, because we want them to be doing that estimating, as well as lead time on materials. So they're going to be the ones that help us check and balance and say, you know, this material that you're thinking about using, we truly can get in the time to construct the building as well.
Yes, please. So do we already have the construction manager on board, or is that going to be another RFP that goes out? So if we want them to be up and running in the next 4 months, when should we expect to see an RFP, or is that, do we already have them?
That we do not have the construction manager on board yet, but we will be issuing an RFP in the next few months
Okay.
and bringing it back
And
for
we'll do
approval
that. Okay.
at this point.
And do you know how much you have for the construction? Like how much will that?
I remember that. This was the 50s,
And
57 total,
I think. You have it.
56.5 is the total budget.
That's the,
That'd be
but that,
But that includes. the
right,
design.
that includes design, includes all your owner costs for testing, it includes furniture, IT. So the actual construction budget is usually about 20% less than that. It's a rule of thumb. It's usually a little bit more than that, but 20% is usually the rule of thumb. If you want to do that way.
Thank you.
And I just wanted, for Director Martin, we are going to have at some point a report on overall on the school construction projects, how I'm still asking for that at some point soon, not during the budget season, but we are going to, again, like to have you come in and talk about, how you arrived at the decisions you did as to what schools are being replaced and the overall very comprehensive just description on what your thinking was and the data you relied on and all that. We are going along and improving these projects, but we really do need a full report on exactly the decision making that went into why we're carrying some schools, but closing some schools, or closing. So I'm assuming that's still coming.
Madam Chair, absolutely. We've been working on it with PPSD, Rod, Mr. DeSanti, and my team over the past, since you asked for it, just with the legislative calendar this month, but we are ready to go. We have a good draft circulating. So we're happy to bring that to you as the calendar allows, Madam Chair.
Great, I'm very excited to hear that. Okay, Councilor Pichardo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of questions in terms of the design. Is this increasing the number of students, or what number is it currently? And if this design for the school, is it increasing the number of pupils based on the fact that you're closing the Broad Street? And is that school being built for pretty much for that area?
Yeah, the short answer, and I can get you the exact numbers, the short answer is yes, we'll be increasing the student population at that school, just because we're increasing the size from an elementary school, which usually goes to 5 or 6, to a pre-K grade, so we'll at least have 2 more grade levels there. So there will be more students occupying that school campus when we're done there.
Or we don't know the numbers?
I probably have it as part of the program, I just don't recall what the number is right now, but I certainly can provide that.
Pro Tem, we can get you the numbers. We've been discussing that as we think about now our approach to not touch the park. The numbers are gonna be an important piece that feeds that, so we can get you the numbers, we just don't have them on yet.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yes, Counselor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairwoman. So who decided that this school is gonna be a pre-K through 8 school?
Well, that decision came through, Providence, Public School District as they're moving towards that pre-K 8 model. That was the
So
direction.
this is direction from PPSD?
Yes.
Thank you. No, it's just a really comment that it's a little. I don't know if concerning is the right word, but we're approving stuff without really any community engagement input on the overall picture of the future of PPSD schools. So
I
That's really
agree,
my only comment.
which is why we've been asking for the report. And I appreciate the willingness, because what's happened in the past is there has been a lack of communication, and it feels, that the door is opening and we're gonna have a robust conversation. It's not that we haven't been asking, it's that we haven't been receiving a response until, I'm gonna say, until, the new director came on, and it seems that we're gonna have some more communication, so.
Yeah, I don't think it's anyone in this room that is gonna get us those answers.
No, I don't think there is anything here, but we are going to get that report, which is gonna tell us exactly why it is we are, moving to pay for away and things like that. So I'm eager to hear.
Absolutely, Madam Chair, and community engagement is one of the key pillars that we're gonna discuss when we come and give that presentation, the work that's being done across the city for all the schools constructed, because community engagement is an important piece. I don't know if you have dates on the top of your head for this specific project, but we're definitely gonna have a community engagement to inform the design.
And they're ongoing. We were at a very community meeting last night with the principal in the community. We've had several at Providence in the past. There is a pre-K discussion going on in the community as well. That's being run by PBSD, where they're going out to the community to do engagement and just talk about the pre-K program as well.
So maybe it's just that the council is not aware of what is going on in our city. So I think that's really what we're trying to solve here. Because we as the representatives for our ward need to know what's happening on the school construction. So anyway, I'm looking forward to the discussion, and I hear your concern. On that,
It's not so much of a question as a comment, but I just want the committee to be aware that previous director of public property tries to stop this vendor from providing service to the city because he would underbid a lot and then come into multiple change orders, 6, 7, 8. So if they had a pre-bid meeting, under the assumption that that won't happen, because we should be aware of everything that needs to be done and it's all $1,000,000 is substantial. And that was one of the complaints that the previous director had. That was why I had that, because that was change order that we see before we.
would you like to respond to that?
I can respond to that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'm aware of that situation that happened. It's unfortunate with that previous project, but I can tell you for a fact, Toronto architect is working on the debate project as part of that design build. We are very pleased with their performance. I know that we have not had any issues with any change orders or any added services. They have been meeting all of their deadlines. I know that Ride is very pleased with the delivery of the material they're providing. So although that was an unfortunate incident, and hopefully it was just an isolated incident, we are not experiencing that currently on the project we're working on. And we did have a very detailed scope review meeting with them prior to making our recommendation as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Madam Auditor. Thank you very much for the report back. That's helpful. Yes, Councilor Peterson.
The question, I think here that, in terms of, MDWE, there's about 30%. Expected participation. Can you explain to me what the subsidy is? Curious, how that works.
That is like they obtain MBE percentage through their subcontractors they hire. Okay, that's how they meet 30.52%.
All right, any more questions?
Yes.
Okay. Approved by Councilor Ricardo. Second.
Also,
Second, Councilor Taylor, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, item number 3.
Item number 3, resolution authorizing approval of the following contract award by the Board of Contract and Supply in accordance with section 21-26B2. Francis Catering, Department of Public Works, $2,222.50.
Director.
Thank you.
Okay. Please swear in the grant.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Please state your name.
It's Patricia Coyne Fay, Director of the Department of Public Works. Thank you so much. That's it. You're doing a little pre-presenting on this big, this colossal item. So this is a bill, to cover the catering costs for food that was provided to our staff from the Parks Department, and, I think 2 staff from the, Public Property, Department, during a weather event. So basically, when it's all hands on deck, which it was, we provide food for all the men and women working in the snowstorm, particularly those driving snowplows. They're anticipated to be on duty for at least 24 hours. They have to be fed. We did explore using other vendors, and really this vendor is the only one that we could find that can provide what we need on such short notice, because it really is kind of a quick thing that we have to mobilize. And they're also frankly one of the only vendors that will deliver to us. And so we went over our over the $10,000, so that's why. Okay, thank you.
I know that maybe a small amount. I don't know if this is policy, and I'm providing the food. I understand under state of emergencies, we used to provide food. I'm sorry, I ordered them, I'm doing my job. $12,000, there was nothing closed, we had no snow this year. I just, it was the matter that they exceeded the budget and the policy, I don't know. If that's how can provide food under emergency situations. So that's why it was sent to the, we got our, the same on the agenda, we only have 2,000. Well,
Yes, 2.
yes, 2,000. And they had first go to 10,000, then they wanted 2,000 more, but it's been $12,000 for emergency services. Okay, so can I just be clear about the 10,000 we budgeted from the how was it budgeted? What's the line item?
I think it's part of an entire snow budget, if you will, which is a large amount. I don't have the amount off the top of my head. I can run around and ask somebody. But if I could respond though, there were actually 3 weather events this winter. I started in January. There was one where actual snow fell, to be fair. But the other 2 were predicted. In fact, the third one, which is the one that I think kind of put us over, was one where there was a significant prediction, a prediction of significant snowfall rather. And it was just a crazy storm where there was a section of New York that was supposed to get nothing, and they ended up getting like 7 feet of snow. We literally got nothing, which was not what was predicted. It's very hard for us to anticipate. And it's one of those things where you're kind of, pardon my French, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So we did have all hands on deck as a priority of the administration to make sure that we respond appropriately. Given the forecast, we were all there, and to have men and women working for, anticipated to be working for at least 24 hours, we do feel an obligation to make sure they're fed with those vehicles for hours and hours and hours on that.
Yes, I don't know. Does that include vendors, outside vendors, or just the?
No, just the city employees.
Thank you. All right, that's what we're going to go.
Thank you, Joel. So then just a quick question. So was the rest of the $10,000, since we're just seeing the 2,000 for the food, which seems totally reasonable, I'll just say that, but like, was the other 10,000 spent on food for the past events? Is that what you're saying? Because if we've gone over.
I believe it was, yes.
Okay.
I think this is just the amount that went over that.
Okay.
And to be candid, we had been under the impression in the beginning, the first two events, that we had to use funds. We thought it was that situation where they were on, that the list, the NFA, realized in the third event, no, we don't. We were wrong about that. And we actually, Deputy McManus explored and contacted other food vendors to see if they can provide for us. And they really just couldn't, because the notice is so short and they don't deliver. And so we went back to the vendor we knew could take care of us the way that we needed. And I'm just gonna jump in and did do it, so you do it properly, correct that in your budget, the proposed budget here. I'm just asking for your food or wherever it is in your. Sure. I mean, it is part of it, yes. I mean, although, again, it is hard to predict. I mean, if I had my way, it would snow again for a number of years. But you kind of never know. And so you're always playing a little bit of a guessing, hoping game with that snow budget. Great. Any other questions? Any discussion? And a motion. Motion made by Councilor Anderson. Seconded by Councilor Pichardo. All in favor?
Motion to approve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All opposed? Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Great, so. So, most of the way the reading of items number 4 through 6.
7.
Okay, was made by Councilor Pichardo. Seconded by Councilor Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, and then I need to have another motion to take our discussion out of order. So I'd like to do IT first, and then we will have.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Pichardo, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, so we will start with IT. See you. Nice to see you. All right. Okay. Please swear them in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name.
Mancini, Chief Financial Officer.
Crystal Lindbergh, Deputy Finance Director and Budget Officer.
Jen Savaria, Chief Information Officer.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
So, Madam Chair, as typical, thank you again for the opportunity to be before you to vet the comments on this continuing basis. Tonight we have with us, first off, the Information Technology Department and CIO Silveria will be giving some of the information and he does, I think, Ms. Lindbergh will do her budget summary.
Of course. So I'm going to be reading into the record, the budget narrative we provided for the IT department. I'd like to follow along in your budget books. We're on page 30 of the budget book.
So interrupt you 1 minute. About the actual presentation mark is exhibit number 15. And a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Anderson, seconded by Councilor. That's all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Sorry to interrupt you. Please continue.
Not a problem. That's okay. So this is the county 10204, which represents our information technology department. There is a small amount of revenue budgeted in this department. So the revenue is budgeted at $3,600 for fiscal year 2024. This is an increase of $3,600 over the fiscal 2023 budget. This increase in revenue is due to a change in contract management with really cell phone services and was previously budgeted in communications department budget. We're going to now move on to expenditures. Total salaries for fiscal 2024 is a proposed $1,886,298.
This is an increase of $130,768 over the fiscal 2023 budget. The department has made the following organizational changes. We have defunded the Chief Innovation Officer at a salary of $90,598. Funded a Director of Information Security at a salary of $127,406. Funded a Desktop Administrator at a salary of $68,565. Defunded the Enterprise Systems Training Specialist with a salary of $67,538. And defunded the Lead Production Services Operator with a salary of $71,923. The net change of these organizational shifts is $34,087. Remaining change to salaries is due to contractual temporary cost of living adjustment, as well as the movement of equipment out of the departmental budgets and into the non-departmental budget. Total benefits are budgeted in fiscal 2024 for $1,112,293. This is an increase of $39,800 over the fiscal 2023 budget. Total proposed budget for fiscal 2024 services are $2,807,128, an increase of $478,705 over the fiscal 23 budget. This increase is primarily due to the implementation of various software system upgrades, which have been offset by a decrease in health benefits. And I'm sure the director would be happy to walk through those upgrades once we get to his portion of the meeting. Total proposed budget for supplies for fiscal 2024 are $341,396. This is an increase of $38,406 over the fiscal 23 budget. And this increase is primarily due to the costs associated with the replacing computer equipment that has reached its end of its useful life. There are no capital expenses in this budget.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Madam Chair, just completes the summary. I just state the record, the net change of the organization of treatment and the net change savings of $34,087, and that's an efficiency move. At this time, we welcome questions on the budget. Mr. Silverio can answer any questions associated with operational or administration of the department.
I would like to kick off my director. So there, do you have a presentation or maybe just start with the questions or?
Well, I'd like to give a little introduction if that's okay. I don't have materials to pass around, but I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we do here in the Information Technology Department. We're responsible for the security, the networking, management of IT systems and use throughout the city. And we have over 1,700 users in our user community. We manage accounts for council, staff administration, mayor's administration side, public safety, police, fire, FEMA. And all of these staff use the services that we provide Microsoft licensing and laptop computers, desktop computers, mobile phones and devices for all of the staff. We provide applications that the staff use. IT over the years have been managing more and more of the software services in the city. So that budget item has changed somewhat in the IT budget. We've seen offsets from other departments where things that previously have been licensed under, say, collector's office, assessor's office, or even some of the public safety offices. That software expense is now being budgeted under IT. So we're managing the systems and services, license renewals, and working with department heads and the user community to make sure that they have the software systems. We also manage help desk operations. That's been greatly improved this year. Crystal mentioned there's a change in positions. We defunded our lead production services operator. That was through a retirement that we had last fiscal year. And we replaced that position at the same grade in the salary level with another desktop administrator. So the responsibilities that the previous position had has been spread now across 3 people, and we picked up an additional desktop support person. They've been working very, very well, and overall the team has been working very, very well on desktop support across the departments. Okay, I want to just mention again, a major part of the role that we play in IT is security management. This involves securing both the applications, the network, and the accounts that all of us use here at the city. It's a great deal of work. We have 17 people on staff, and everybody plays a hand in managing security services, some more than others. But it's critically important to maintain the security and the infrastructure that we have around our network and our resources. There have been a lot of stories in the news recently on cities and towns in Rhode Island, on other communities across the country. We've seen issues in Ripta, we've seen issues in Narragansett Bay. We've seen Suffolk County, half of Long Island, have been shut down by a cybersecurity attack recently. Lowell, Massachusetts, a city similar size, a little bit smaller than Providence, was recently attacked just 2 weeks ago. Their systems were taken offline. And when this happens, some of these communities, they lose the ability to email each other, to communicate, to process payroll, to collect taxes, to manage any online city services. They're completely isolated, taken offline. So we focus a great deal on security and cybersecurity surrounding our network, our operations. We have a security training program that we've issued to all employees so that they participate in a monthly training program. And part of our request in this budget is also to fund the position of Director of Information Security to help us stay ahead of these threats, these issues, and help us to better manage security around our infrastructure and our investments.
Well, I would like to kick off the question. Thank you very much. We value your work greatly. You've been done a lot of work to bring us up to date and get our technology where it should be. I guess my question is, I'm always worried about you being understaffed. So I'm just wondering, is there a significant change in the number of employees that you have in your department? Or
Well, in this budget request, we are asking for one additional position.
okay,
And that's the Director of Information Security. We did defund, as I mentioned, we somewhat swapped positions. A desktop administrator in the past year was swapped for our lead production services operator. And we defunded that lead production services operator position. So that's a net zero change in those positions. The Chief Innovation Officer was a position that was previously funded under information technology under our budget. And they work very closely both with IT and administration, mayor's office and various departments to help improve processes, whether they're IT processes or just business processes for the city. That position is being defunded. A request to be defunded in this budget as well.
and you're not replacing that.
We're not requesting to replace that.
Okay, so no one's taking over that role for which you could right now.
The position is currently vacant. We do not have a chief innovation officer and nobody's taken. We're not planning to backfill that.
Thank you. Questions? Yes. That's what I.
Thank you, Carolyn, and thank you. I agree with Helen, you did such a great work, so thank you for being here. I had a few questions, but I'll start actually with the Chief Innovation Officer. So when we heard from, my experience in having worked in state government, but we heard from fire department on Tuesday, talking about some of the process improvements that they're trying to make, where their processes involve like actually printing a sheet of paper, walking it to the next guy who has to sign it, who has to hand deliver it somewhere else. I imagine there's lots of processes like that across the city, which waste a lot of time and money, which seems like an IT issue. So in light of that, why would we defund the Chief Innovation Officer position?
Well, to be honest with you, that was a request made to the administration. That position been worked very closely with the mayor's office in the past years, and I believe there's just a change in direction. I would like to say though, the example that you gave, we do have IT staff, and we work very closely with the fire department, Chief Dolan. We have some software that he's been using to develop new forms for those applications to replace those paper processes. And we do have staff at IT who are filling those roles, trying to work with all of the departments, including public safety, to help improve the processes, services that we require.
Yes, please. Can I ask a few more? One, I saw the 311 replacement is budgeted at 100K. Do we think that that's like enough for designing and implementing the 311 upgrade and replacement?
So we currently have a request for information that's published right now, with reward contract, and the opening for the responses is May 27th.
Okay,
Okay, so we put we requested $100,000 in this based upon what was in the implementation. Generally, first year implementation for software systems a little bit more because there's some design work and customization and report development and training that goes along with it before we get to the, say, annual cost just to support the software license. So we feel that 100,000 is sufficient for the first year implementation and the new 311 system.
and before, when we heard the public safety budget on, Tuesday, sorry, days, what are they? Yesterday, last night, I don't know. They had in their budget a new desktop administrator. I think it was the police budget. But it sounds like your desktop administrators and your IT staff help all the departments. Is that, I'm trying to figure out, like, is that a necessary? I can't ask you about their position, but that doesn't seem fair, but is that duplicative? It feels duplicative, I guess is the statement I'm making.
I understand. I think I can offer that the IT department, we do work closely with the IT staff that support public safety. And so we do support the core applications, the services, the accounts, and some of the software that is used throughout all of the public safety offices.
Yeah.
Traditionally, there have been IT staff working as well within public safety that have direct contact with police officers, the firefighters, emergency personnel. They visit the substations. They're hands-on working in the cars and the laptops and the devices that police and fire use. Traditionally, the three IT staff that we have are not working on the direct desktop support of the public safety.
On the line item 53440 information technology, there was an increase of $400,000. What is the information technology line item? That just feels like.
I understand. That's so that's the label that is on it. And those are the software services. So all of the licensing for all of the software, as I mentioned, we've been doing some work over the years to collect all of the software licensing costs for all city departments under this one account, information technology services. This year it is increasing. The request is increasing for several reasons. Many of our software providers have a annual increase in their cost of support and licensing. So some of these licenses are going up next year. Meanwhile, we're renegotiating our Microsoft licenses for each of our individual contracts, and that is actually going down somewhat, about 20% this year. So we do work diligently to try to create savings. Some of the other items in that account that you might see is there's a police detail software which we are including in the IT budget. We're going to work closely with the police department and public safety on procuring the new software, but it's going to be paid out of the IT budget. So that's part of the increase. We also have been working closely with the sustainability department. They're working on a billing management system that will manage all of the utility bills throughout the city.
Yeah.
We've been working with them on the RFP and the vendors, and it's being funded through the IT budget as well. So, and then one last rather large item to note is we've been working with the Parks Department, DPW, and Public Property as well as fleet managers throughout the city on a work order management and work order management, asset management, and fleet management software. So this has been brought in over the past couple of years, and we're bringing in more departments in this current fiscal year. Next fiscal year, we'll be paying the full cost of that software for the entire city. It's actually going to, from what I've spoken with the director of the director of the Parks Department, they fully implemented the system. They feel they've had huge gains in efficiency in terms of managing their staff, their expectations, their assets, and basically the daily assignments. So their supervisors come in, they already know what they're doing today. They have everything available on their phone and their iPad. They take what they need, they take their crew, they go out. They draw down on assets or supplies as they need them, whatever it is that they're using. And again, back at the end of the day, they complete their tasks. So everyone can see it's very, very transparent. What is going on in the Parks Department, how do they work? So based upon that success, we've taken that model. We've already conducted some training with the public works department, and we're going to be, I believe it's June 20th, we're going to be leading the implementation with public property as well. So because those departments work so well together and we cover so much of what we see around us here in the city, they'll be able to communicate a little bit better, so that if one sees, a pothole, somebody from Park sees a pothole in the street, they can report it with work order system. DPW gets that advance notice, and then they can go out there and so it's going to allow better communication, better coordination of all of the work on throughout those three departments. But it does come in at somewhat of a cost in the software expense within this project. So those are a few of the larger items that make up the dynamics.
The line above it, private contractors, has grown a lot since 2021. Who are the private contractors, and why are we increasing the line on them? In a friendly way, 53401 on page 30.
So part of private contractors includes, in this case, the $100,000 for PVD 311 implementation.
Okay, that's
is
a
under
good.
private contracts, because typically we would go out to bid. We would solicit solicitations for a vendor to implement and license the software. So in some cases, we'll have an implementation company that resells the software. In some cases, we'll have the vendor that has their own implementation team, and they sell their own software. So we don't know quite what we're going to get, but $100,000 out of that will be for the first year implementation services, the design, training, get us up and running, and then the licensing cost will go into our FY25 request under the software. Some of the other private contractors that we use, we have a line item in there for network wiring, installation services. Buildings such as this, City Hall, when we move offices, move desks around, or we're looking to do an upgrade in our Wi-Fi coverage within the building. That just requires somebody coming in, an electrician, to install new network wiring in the building. We've also been working quite a bit with the recreation department to increase wiring in the rec centers, as well as working in some of the parks offices to upgrade their Wi-Fi. So it covers wiring installation. We have a line item in there for Lawson system supplemental support. Lawson is the application that we use throughout the city to manage finances, HR, benefits, payroll, retirement system, all of that servicing. And we have a contractor on board that helps us with some of the design work, some of the support work, some of the patches and upgrades that we go through on a regular basis. We also have a couple of lines in there for Microsoft support contracts. This is different from our license. We do work with some third-party vendors to help us design additional services. So we're going to be looking for some consulting services to help us get some some cloud hosting services, some duplication of our hosting, and some backup and recovery services that we're going to be building upon in the next fiscal year. So essentially, it's just looking to supplement our staff with some of the specializations and professionals in the area who work more closely with their services on new implementations.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you for the explanation. It's been great. My just general question, and maybe it's more of your thoughts and stuff. There's a lot going on in the world when it comes to artificial intelligence. I just want to ask you, maybe generally your thoughts and what if any work that the city's doing when it comes to AI.
So I'm not aware of any use at all today within the city of Providence. It's kind of an emerging technology. It's very, very exciting. We're seeing a lot of uses out in the rest of the world. Anybody here can go on, any number of sites and write a poem, create a song, do their homework. At this point, we tend to focus on mainstream proven solutions that we're seeing in other municipalities. That's where, frankly, we focus most of our budget. And those are the services that are in use today and we're planning on budget requests. We do have an interest in seeing emerging technologies and seeing how these things can help. So over the next year, we are going to be keeping an eye on what is coming up in other municipalities or in other government organizations and how they are leveraging AI to either improve efficiencies or create new services that we don't currently offer. So we're going to keep an eye on it as technology moves.
I mean, would you have like interest if we funded a position like that? That's my biggest thing is that government obviously always a little bit behind on times, and like, are you open to the idea of getting someone in the city to start looking into that type of technology rather sooner than later?
I think we'd be open to looking into that. It's right now that would be a little bit lower on my priority list, where we're really trying to focus on some of our core security issues. And like I said, over the next year, there's a lot of consultants, a lot of I don't want to say salespeople, but people more knowledgeable in that area who come to Providence, come to every other city in town, and promote these services and promote how they could be. So I think we'd like to look to possibly the consultant community first, to see what are some of the new possibilities out there, what are some of the emerging technologies, as I mentioned, and how they might be leveraged within Providence. And if we decide to go with any of those solutions or products, then we may end up looking for additional staff to manage it.
That longer. Oh, I'm sorry, Council Ricardo. Okay. We have 1.5 million in auto for cybersecurity and IT investment. Is that for the rec centers as well?
I'll just grab my numbers here. So the one out of that 1.5 million, to date, we've funded several programs. The OpenGov budgeting and reporting software suite that we use with the finance team to help develop budgets and develop reports on our budgeting is funded out of that. We have a project that we're working with public property. It's been, we've had an architect under contract working on the design of an upgraded server room. And the construction on that is, I'm told, is set to begin within a few months. So that is being funded under the ARPA. We're going to be installing new cooling services and new backup power services in our server room that we don't currently have today. We're also going to be looking to enclose the envelope of the server room itself and separate it out from some of the other uses that are in that room. As well as sorry. I'm sorry, so that's what we have funded at today and what's currently being used under that 1.5.
Councilman Turner.
Under the 311 service, we've been historically using Sana. Will you provide any advice or any input on that software in terms of implementation and effectiveness?
Okay, so I believe the 311 platform we're using today is by Acela. Acela, and they're the reseller of Public Star is the name of the software. And so that is, we have a mobile app that many people throughout the city have. We also have within our website, you can make 311 requests there.
Yes.
So that has been in place for roughly 8 years. It has worked very well. I worked with the prior administration and selection team. We went out to bid for the software for a general 311 system. And this was really the first mobile app that Providence had seen. And the first fully integrated 311 system working through the mayor's center for city services, where all of the requests were being centralized, the requests are being intake, and then sent out for city departments for a resolution or whatever needed to be done. So we're looking for some similar functionality. As I mentioned, right now, we have an RFI, request for information out. These are not bids. We're basically looking for vendors to come back to us with what's new in 311? What are the best practices? What have they been deploying in other cities and towns, counties, around the country, and what have they seen successes in? And so that is going to be open, as I mentioned, May 22nd. And from there, we're going to be reviewing some of these submissions, looking for demonstrations. And from that, we'll be putting together an RFP. So we'll be requesting proposals for vendors to actually submit formal bids for a 311 system.
Okay. In terms of any future exploration in terms of funding through broadband initiatives in the country, and are you playing a role in the state plan for broadband and utilizing some of those funds for the municipalities? It's particularly in Providence.
Yes, glad you brought that up. So to summarize, some of the funding that's been earmarked through the federal grants going to Rhode Island, as one of the requirements for that funding is that state put together a team of cities and town municipal representatives, as well as state representatives, other state agencies, to put together a plan. So fortunately, I was able to get on that team. We've had several meetings. These are public meetings that being led by the state, the CIO, these organizing the group. So we're in the process now of putting together both cybersecurity plans and plans for what we would do with funding as a whole, and what are some of our priorities as a municipality and as a state as a whole. So we're working together to try to come up with a plan for how we can make both best use of the funds. And certainly I'll be looking to make sure Providence is well represented, and we receive a share of the funding that's available.
Yes, please.
Are you the only one representing from the city of Providence in that?
From the city, yes.
From the city?
There's several other cities and towns on that committee, as well as representatives from a few of the state agencies.
Should there be more people represented from the city, seeing that the city is the largest city in the state? In your opinion?
All I can offer is I was happy to be invited to the team. It appears that there's-
You can say, of course.
it appears that there's one person from each organization and, I'm doing my best to represent the interests.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, water.
On the first round of offer, you had $1 million with. And then working access.
Yes.
How is that? Is that thing to do, or is that part of the city?
So that is actually separate. So that's funding that came directly to the city of Providence under their ARPA allocation. And we've had several projects spending against that $1 million, including purchase of purchase of hardware for Wi-Fi installations throughout Roger Williams Park. We purchased several standalone Wi-Fi outdoor access points that we've installed in several parks throughout the city. So we have outdoor Wi-Fi available to the public. We also have worked with the parks to install Wi-Fi along their service corridors in some of our parks and public spaces. And my understanding is there's a couple of other projects coming up that have been utilizing that funding. And if I may, there was one other item, because you brought up the first 1.5 million in cybersecurity. We're actually going to be requesting the board approve an advertisement for new firewall hardware that we're looking to purchase this summer, which will also come out of that.
I just will follow up. I'm asking about broadband in general. What are we doing as a city to expand our access?
So in the prior administration, we had a committee that had been working on ideas on how to expand broadband access. And out of that committee, we developed several projects, as I mentioned, outdoor Wi-Fi in and around the Roger Williams Park buildings. Some of those are already online today. We're also, now that we have some better weather, we're going to be installing some outdoor access points. So some of the outdoor spaces will have Wi-Fi available. We installed outdoor Wi-Fi in several local parks and playgrounds throughout the city and public spaces. So I am looking forward to working with this administration to help develop some additional projects to make best use of that kind of products.
Okay.
I just thought, right, this is part of that whole process, as otherwise, like, attendance using and rec centers is a priority, and children will be there after school and giving them the opportunity. Afterwards. That's just my, I don't know if we decided where it would be, but that was just my recollection.
So recreation centers, some of them are adjacent to parks. And so they have outdoor Wi-Fi through the ARPA fund project. I think Leozi, for example, has outdoor Wi-Fi next to the recreation center building. Okay. We were fortunate to also receive a grant through CDBG funding, which came well before we were awarded the ARPA funds. And we're working on spending that down as we speak. So we have Wi-Fi hardware that's already been purchased for the recreation centers and the headquarters building. And it's also funding the installation services. So the wiring contractors that are going to be installing. So that is happening, over May and June right now. So we do intend to, address some of the gaps or areas without service within rec centers, as well as they have outdoor access points that we're going to be installing in some of the buildings so that the playgrounds and areas around the building will have Wi-Fi coverage as well.
Absolutely. Charter.
Yeah, so, as you indicated that you said in that state program, they will allow us to tap into some of that dollars and when it will be available. Is the other department working with grant writer externally or internally? To not just to wait to receive this money, but proactively applying for these grants. They are available now. But is there any working relationship with external or internally to apply for the money?
So one of the grants specifically that I was referring to, the requirements of the grant to the state of Rhode Island and to the communities was that the state put together a committee. And this is well over $100 million that's going to Rhode Island. So the first step in accessing those funds was to put together the steering committee to develop a plan for how we're going to use that funds. So that was the group that I was referring to make use of that pot of money. And aside from that, I'm not currently working with a grant writer on any other outside grant opportunities.
Grant writer within the city or external?
I'm not working with a grant writer with an external, no. But so, as I said, this is a grant which I understand has already been allocated to the state of Rhode Island, and I believe 80% of the funds are to be distributed to municipalities. So a large chunk of this money is going to land in cities and towns around Rhode Island, and that's the committee that I'm working with to help develop a plan for how we're going to spend that.
Yes.
If you could just follow up with us, especially with our senior researcher, Christina Brown. We're working to address some of these issues in particular with broadband. So if you could just give her a call.
Sure.
In reference to that specific grant writing and broadband. Thank you.
All right.
And I'm just gonna add one more thing that I've heard, when we talked to the director of recreation, because I think there's some sort of problem with the event planning software, it doesn't interact with the Parks Department event planning software, so there seems to be a little bit of a problem with coordinated, it seems to me that they really do need to coordinate the event planning.
So I actually speak to him fairly regularly.
I'm
He's
sure.
one of our better customers. And what we found is the Parks Department, the Recreation Department, a lot of their facilities are on public parks. And when there are events planned in the parks by the Parks Department, the Recreation Department doesn't always know, and vice versa. So we've been working with them to get them access to the booking software that the Parks Department is using for these events, so that they can both book on the same platform. And this has been a change just in the past couple of months, because I mentioned the asset management software and the work order management system that Parks is using. The event booking software is a part of that as well. And that has just been implemented probably within the past month. So what that's going to allow everybody to do now is Director Grace and his staff from Recreation will use that same platform to make requests for the Parks Department or any other department facilities that they need, and see the events that are being planned by both Parks and Recreation in the same spot. There's also a public portal where people will be able to go on and request reservations for public spaces. So whether it's the casino or the botanical center in Rogers Park or some of the other whether recreation and park facilities, those will all be available in one single portal. So we're doing our best to consolidate all these systems together and get everybody on the same platform.
Thank you very much. Any more questions? Yes, Madam Auditor. Lawson contact, and we still contact now for the Lawson.
So we have, that's one of the line items I've mentioned in our private contractors. We have a contract for, it's about $30,000 a year for loss and supplemental support. Okay, so in addition to the IT staff that we have working on maintaining our loss environment, we do have one outside vendor that works on getting that as well.
Great. All right, any other questions? Okay, Councilor Pichardo.
The line item on the telephone,
Yes.
it seems like quite high. Is it that? Can you just
Sure, I can explain a little more about that. So under telephone, it's actually not what you would consider as a traditional desk phone. Okay? Desk phones are funded under the Public Safety Telecommunications Office in their budget under Director of Production. Okay. The budget request under IT covers our network, so the telecommunications network, which we run our computer network. Yeah. Okay. That includes several vendors. One of them is Ocean. It's an Ocean State collaborative through the entire state where they provide internet services and network services to buildings within the city. So City Hall, for example, is a node of the Ocean network. The Doherty Building is a node. Roger Williams Park, DPW, so on. Several of our offices throughout the city have nodes on the Ocean network. So we pay them a monthly service for that. Additionally, we have both Verizon and Cox services. We have about 75 offices throughout Providence, believe it or not, among all the police stations, fire stations, recreation centers, and other parks locations. So all of these locations are on the city network. And we contract with Verizon and Cox for their monthly service, just like you might at home for your regular internet on. So we pay those two vendors as well. And then we manage the cell phone contract for the administrator. So that's essentially everybody outside of public safety. We have over 300 cell phones in use throughout the city offices, including parks, DPW, inspection standards, IT. We have a couple of phones. We have tablets in use throughout the city. A lot of staff using the workload management software have an iPad so that they're able to work on their systems there. And all of those monthly services and purchase of the phones falls under that telephone budget.
Okay. A lot of questions for you today.
Oh, I don't mind at all.
Thank you so much. Do you have any other questions? Thank you so much, Director Silveria, for the job you're doing for the city.
On my phone.
Appreciate it. So,
So,
for your, thank you. Okay, so on we move. We have Department of Public Works.
Madam Chair, we have a number of probably what's official, but would you like to have them sworn in all at the same time?
Yes, please, if that would be.
So if they would be kind enough to stand, the deputy. I think they will allow to be sworn in and identify their name and title.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name.
And step with the director.
Craig Ogden, Chief Engineer. 8 or so.
Liza Clark, you're excited.
Member of the superintendent's role of director. I was superintendent.
Thank you so much. And I think before we start, I'm just gonna say a very, very big thank you to all of you who have been working so hard. I know I've worked with many of you over the past 4 years, and I am always impressed with your department and the service you provide to the city. So I just want to thank all of you. All right.
Madam Chair, continuing the format, Ms. Lindbergh will read the summary for the record.
We're gonna, yes, good for you. I would like to now have a motion for the presentation from the departmental hearing on public works budget as exhibit number 16. Have a motion. Motion made by Councilor Pichardo, seconded by Councilor Anderson. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
I do not, we're joined again this evening, Madam Chair, by Director Fisher. My trade, and she will do a summary of the department once this number completes the summary of the.
Okay. If you're following along in your budget book, we are on page 47. We're going to start with the division of traffic engineering. Uh, This division is a revenue generating division. Total revenue for fiscal 2024 is budgeted at $500,000. This is an increase of $40,000 over the fiscal 2023 budget. This increase is due to additional street closure permit fee revenue based on special projects and events in fiscal 2024. Moving on to expenditures, the first category are salaries. Total salaries for fiscal 2024 are proposed $740,317, a decrease of $9,997 from the fiscal 2023 department. And the department has proposed the following organizational changes for fiscal 2024. They are defunding the clerk for bilingual, funding a traffic engineering person, and defunding a traffic cycle maintenance person. Unfortunately, after the proposed budget was submitted, we had realized that the traffic engineering person, which is a local 1033 position, was eliminated from the budget request for the department. So we will need to add this position back in for the budget amendments. The salary associated with that position is part of the net decrease in salaries of $29,932. Additionally, the decrease was offset by contractual 1033 cost of living increases, along with step increases. In addition, we have that the attrition that was moved out of this department into non-departmental, which kind of offset some of that decrease. Total benefits for fiscal 2024 proposed $529,931. This is a decrease of $14,306 from the fiscal 2023 budget. Total services in this division are proposed $249,800, an increase of $3,000 over the fiscal 2023 budget. This increase is due to additional parking funding, which has been budgeted in the miscellaneous expense account. Total supplies for fiscal 2024 are proposed $60,000. This is an increase of $29,250 over the fiscal 23 budget. This increase is due to additional funding for traffic signs, road signs, and traffic light repairs. There is no capital in this category.
Madam Chair, would you like us to continue with the entire department, or would you like to take it section by section so that if there are content expertise questions that we can defer to the division manager with the department directors?
That's, it's a reference from my committee members. Fine, we'll continue. Is that okay? All right.
And we're willing to come back to each conversation. Thank you.
The next division department can be seen on page 48 in your budget book. This is Public Works Administration. There is no revenue in this department. It's not revenue generating. We'll move on to expenditures. Total salaries for fiscal 2024 are proposed $747,142. This is an increase of $42,496 over the fiscal 2023 budget. The department has proposed the following organizational changes for fiscal 2024. They would like to fund the community liaison at a salary of $45,422. They will be defunding the fiscal advisor, Public Works, at a salary of $75,983, and replacing that position with a manager of fiscal operations at a salary of $96,070. They will also be defunding one Public Works clerk with a salary of $37,080. The net impact of these changes is $28,429. Funding for the department's staff reorganization was omitted from the personnel supplement will need to be adjusted in the final budget amendment, subject to approval. The remaining increase to salaries is due to a contractual 1033 cost of living adjustment of 2.75%, along with step increases. Additionally, the finance office has moved attrition out of the departments and into the non-departmental accounts. Total benefits for fiscal 2024 are proposed $525,729. This is an increase of $17,084 over the fiscal 2023 budget. Total services for fiscal 2024 are proposed $31,900, which is consistent with fiscal 2023. Total supplies for fiscal 2024 are proposed $9,800, and that is consistent with the fiscal 2023 budget. And that completes the summary for Public Works Administration. The next division in this department can be seen on page 49 in your budget book. This is Division 101-502, Engineering and Sanitation. This is not a revenue generating department. Total salaries for fiscal 2024 are proposed $797,921, an increase of $83,789 over the fiscal 2023 budget. The department has proposed the following organizational changes in fiscal 2024. They would like to increase the salary for the Assistant Chief of Engineering. That is a total cost of $3,283. They would like to fund an Associate Engineer 2 at a cost of $107,971. These Associate Engineer 2s are replacing what were previously funded as Associate Engineer 3s, which results in a net savings as those salaries added up to $128,668. Additionally, we have had a civil engineer in training who is no longer in training, so we need to defund the civil engineer in training and fund a full-time civil engineer. The net change of this reorganization is a reduction of $6,380 in the salary expense line. The increase to salaries is due to contractual live cost 1033 cost of living adjustments of 2.75%, along with any step increases, and the change of attrition, moving it out of the departments into the non-departmental. Total benefits for fiscal 2024 are proposed $403,756. This is a decrease of $22,745 from fiscal 2023 budget. Total services for fiscal 2024 are proposed $92,500, an increase of $10,000 over the fiscal 23 budget. This increase is primarily due to additional funding for the department to replace a broken coffee machine. Total supplies for fiscal 2024 are proposed $1,500. This is an increase of $500 over the fiscal 2023 budget, and this increase is due to additional costs associated with purchasing small tool shops and supplies. For the small shop supplies, not the shops. Okay, next up, we are in the environmental division. We can flip to page 50. We'd like to see their budget in the budget book. This is a revenue generating department. Total revenue is budgeted at $71,500, which is consistent with fiscal 2023. Total salaries for fiscal 2024 are proposed $787,211, an increase of $173,162 over the fiscal 2023 budget. The department has proposed the following organizational changes for fiscal 2024. They will be funding 2 laborers at a net impact of $98,097. The remaining increase is due to the same things we've seen across the board. We have the 1033 contractual cost of living increase, as well as step increases and the reallocation of attrition. Total benefits in this division are proposed at $455,179. This is a decrease of $27,426. Total services for fiscal 2024 are proposed $13,620,775. This is an increase of $1,602,381 over the fiscal 23 budget. This change is primarily due to contractual increases associated with waste collection and processing, as well as funding for litter cleanup initiatives. Total supplies for fiscal 2024 are proposed $6,000 and are consistent with the fiscal 2023 budget. The next division in this department is the highway division. Their budget is located on page 51 of the budget book. This is a revenue generating department. Total revenue is budgeted at $250,000, which is consistent with the fiscal 2023 budget. We're going to move on to expenditures. First up is salaries. Total salaries for fiscal 2024 are proposed $3,036,329. This is an increase of $506,374 over the fiscal 2023 budget. And the department has proposed the following organizational changes in fiscal 2024. Will be funding 1 cement finisher at $49,787. We'll be funding 1 foreperson at $16,465. They will be replacing a laborer with a general foreperson, which is an impact of $14,319. And they will be funding 2 laborers for $98,097. The net cost of all of these changes is $222,668. Total benefits for fiscal 2024 are proposed $2,024,264. This is a decrease of $68,829 from the fiscal 2023 budget. Total services for fiscal 2024 are proposed $515,000. This is an increase of $250,000 over the fiscal 2023 budget. This increase is due to additional funding for street sweeping, which was partially funded by ARPA in fiscal 2023. Total supplies for fiscal 2024 are proposed $240,000. This is an increase of $63,000 over the fiscal 2023 budget. And this increase is primarily due to additional funding required for cement and plaster products, small tool shop supplies, and lumber and hardware, which have been significantly impacted by inflation. Total capital for this budget is proposed $100,000, which is consistent with fiscal 2023. The next budget in this division is the snow budget. It can be seen on page 53 of your budget books. Total salaries for this division or for this division are proposed $500,000 and consistent with fiscal 2023. There are no expenses for benefits in this department. Total services for fiscal 2024 are proposed $105,000 and consistent with fiscal 2023. Total supplies in fiscal 2024 are proposed $973,500, and those are also consistent with fiscal 2023. The next division we have in this department is sewer construction. Their budget is located on page 54 of the budget book. This is a revenue generating department and total revenue is budgeted at $11,000, which is consistent with the fiscal 2023 budget. Total salaries for fiscal 2024 are a proposed $637,974, an increase of $71,063 over the fiscal 2023 budget. The department has proposed the following organizational changes. They would like to fund one cement finisher at $49,787. They will be defunding one foreperson at $60,465. I was just notified that there was an error in the submission documents and that the defunding of the sewer construction worker was proposed in error. And so we will need to add back that funding of $44,061. In addition, we would like to fund a supervisor of sewer, which is still in negotiations with the union. The salary listed in the personnel supplement is $66,102, but there are discussions that amount may increase to $77,345 to provide parity with a similar position in the Parks Department. The remaining increase in salaries is due to contractual 1033 cost of living adjustments and step increases. Additionally, the finance office has moved departmental attrition allocation out of the departments and budgeted its entirety in the non-departmental accounts. Total benefits for fiscal 2024 are proposed $431,556. This is a decrease of $4,178 from the 23 budget. There are no service expenses in this department's budget. Total supplies for fiscal 2024 are proposed $155,000. This is an increase of $5,000 over the fiscal 2023 budget. This increase is due to additional funding required for small tools and shop supplies and gravel sand costs, which have been significantly impacted by inflation. The total capital for fiscal 2024 is a proposed $65,000. This is an increase of $15,000 over the fiscal 2023 budget. This is due to increased costs associated with fountain maintenance throughout the city. More to go. Next up, we have garage. They are on page 55 of your budget book. This is not a revenue generating department. So we will move right along to expenditures. Total salaries for fiscal 2024 are proposed $549,465. This is an increase of $81,910 over the fiscal 2023 budget. This increase in salaries is due to contractual 1033 cost of living adjustments and 2.75% step up 2.75% along with step increases. Additionally, we have moved the attrition out of this department and into non-departmental accounts in accordance with the rest of the divisions. Total benefits for fiscal 2024 are proposed $390,098. This is a decrease of $9,408 from the fiscal 2023 budget. Total services for fiscal 2024 proposed $6,000, and they are consistent with fiscal 2023. Total supplies for fiscal 2024 are proposed $250,000. This is an increase of $50,000 over the fiscal 2023 budget. And this increase is due to additional funding required for auto parts, which have been significantly impacted by inflation. There is no capital expenditure in this. And last up, we have parking administration. This is a revenue generating department. Total revenue is budgeted at $3,120,000 for fiscal 2024. This is a decrease of $160,000 from the fiscal 2023 budget. And this decrease is due to a reduction in overnight parking permit revenue and is supported by trends. If you're following along, I didn't say we're on page 56 of the budget. We'll move along to expenditures. Total salaries for fiscal 2024 are proposed $245,999. This is an increase of $26,480 over the fiscal 2023 budget. The increase in salaries is due to contractual 1033 cost of living adjustments of 2.75% and step increases. Additionally, the finance office has moved departmental attrition allocation out of departments and budget attrition in its entirety in a non-departmental account. There are no proposed organizational changes for fiscal 2024. Total benefits for fiscal 24 are proposed $148,247. This is an increase of $31,707 over the fiscal 23 budget. Total services for fiscal 2024 are proposed $203,891, a decrease of $126,534 from the fiscal 2023 budget. This decrease is due to a reduction in Brinks Point collection service costs. There are no supply expenses in this budget, nor are there capital. And that rounds out all of the negatives.
Thank you so much. Nicely done.
So Madam Chair, and members of the committee, members of the council, with your further indulgence and your consent, you would be so kind, Director Point Fane has an overview that she'd like to introduce, and your blessings, give us an overview.
Director, welcome.
Thank you
so much. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank the committee, and also I'd certainly like to thank Chief Mancini and Ms. Lindbergh and Ms. Silveria, who's not here tonight, for their guidance and assistance, and frankly, their patience with me. As you know, we went to law school because we were told there would be no math. That's correct. So they've had to really exercise a lot of patience with me, and I appreciate it. So what I'd like to do is just give a very, very brief overview of my observations of the operations at the Department of Public Works and the budget requests that relate to our mission to provide a better quality of life for the city of Providence. Since beginning as director in January, I've worked really hard to understand the operations of the DPW and learn where we can improve and how I can help with that objective. I want to start by complimenting the team, the men and women that you swore in earlier. Have been incredibly generous with their time and knowledge, and particularly Deputy McManus, who I know all of you know, who has shared her expertise about and enthusiasm for this work and has really made my transition much, much easier. So I'm pleased to report that in a short period of time, relatively, I've been able to gain a better understanding of DPW work thanks to their willingness to share what they do. And I'd like to just briefly talk about their operations. As I mentioned earlier, we managed 3 weather events, one with actual snow, 2 with predicted snow. Those were all hands-on deck operations, and it allowed me to see the operation from start to finish, everything from calling in vendors to watching how the salt gets loaded and so forth. At around 4:30 in the morning, during one of those events, I was able to ride in a six-wheeler snowplow with Ron, who was a Highway 4 person, just to learn about that operation, and really was kind of stunned by the physicality of that job. I was in the passenger seat and I was exhausted. And so it gave me a real appreciation for that work. I spent some time with Joe, an engineering supervisor, learning about the permitting process and visiting construction sites throughout the city. Spent a morning with Jason, a traffic analyst, checking speed cameras and assessing signage throughout the city. Learned about those processes. I spent a Saturday morning watching and learning about the mattress collection operation at 700 Allens with crew members Orlando, Francisco, and Chris. That is astounding. If you've never seen that, it's kind of impressive. I think we counted last year between mattresses that are picked up on the side of the highway and mattresses that are brought in on Saturday. It's almost 10,000 mattresses in a year. I spent some time with the sewer superintendent Dave and his foreman Sean and other members of their crew, seeing how catch basins get cleared in anticipation of heavy rains. So even, you think DPW using snow, but rain is a very, very significant contributor to the work that was done. We spent another morning with the crew watching the sewer line getting repaired on a street corner. Few hours with Christian, Eddie, and Steve from the Highway Division recently, filling potholes with hot asphalt throughout the city. Spent some time with Anthony, an environmental inspector, enforcing rules against mattress dumping and other trash violations. Spent half a day with Felix, who does meter maintenance, learning how parking meters are serviced and repaired. I've begun implementing processes and better communication department-wide from the top down, trying to eliminate silos between divisions and other city departments that we work with and create a more cooperative spirit to help us use our limited resources most effectively to meet our mission. I'm proud of the fact that I was able to bring in Narcan training for all of our highway and sewer and environmental employees who drive city vehicles. They now are trained in how to use Narcan and have Narcan in their vehicles. I felt like that was a good thing to do. They're out in the city anyway, and God forbid they encounter someone in distress, they now have that tool in their toolbox. We've engaged in some team building, some leadership exercises. I give a Friday update by email to the entire department to try to bring us all together and keep everybody on the same page in terms of what's going on. I'm very proud that under the leadership of Dave Mambro, the department was certified in February of 23 to be a training site for CBC licensure. So since that time, we've trained and licensed, I believe, 5 employees to get their CBC licenses. And that was a really great accomplishment. In addition to work being done in-house to improve operations, we spend a lot of time, as we should, listening to concerns of the community. Various DPW staff and I have attended board and community meetings. We've had individual conversations with members of council and residents. I've toured various neighborhoods with members of council, both on foot and in vehicles, learning about specific areas. We're better collaborating with other departments, like the police department, who's helping us with some illegal dumping operations. Recreation department, we're going to do some education with kids over the summer about littering, and public property to help address those issues most pressing to city residents. What I've observed in my short time is that the DPW is currently operating under a reactive approach, which I think is probably an unfortunate consequence of over the years of increasing demand and decreasing resources. So the goal of the DPW is to move it toward a more proactive model, which will enable it to provide better service to Providence, and our budget requests are informed by that goal. So if I could, I'd like to just go over a couple of the highlights of the budget request and explain why we're bringing them to you. The community liaison, by having a person dedicated to this role, we'll be able to provide a better level of communication, information, transparency, and responsiveness. And you may see in the budget, we defunded a clerk position and are asking to instead fund this position. A clerk is important, and we have other clerks, but this position has been vacant. And really, when you think about a clerk, that's someone standing behind the counter waiting for the public to come to them. I'd like to have a community liaison that is going out into the public to find out what those issues are that are important to the community, rather than being reactive and waiting for people to bring their problems to us. With someone who is a dedicated staffer, dedicated explicitly and exclusively to those community relations, I really think that's going to help this department fulfill its public service mission. I think, I mean, certainly you all know Maureen. I don't think she sleeps. She does an amazing job. She and I have both spent a lot of time with members of the public. But the reality is, we have other work that is very important as well. It doesn't mean we'll stop doing that, but to have someone who's dedicated to that role, I think would be a real win for the department in terms of its ability to meet the needs of the community. The sidewalk crew, when we think about sidewalks, and I know we're going to be engaging with the council in other forums to talk more comprehensively about sidewalks, but there's kind of 2 levels. There's the first level, which is kind of an immediate, make safe, smaller level repair of a sidewalk. And then there's the more comprehensive citywide plan that we're going to be talking about in the months to come.
The sidewalk crew that is proposed in the budget is meant to address that first level, that those more immediate, smaller, if you will, repairs to sidewalks. And by having that extra sidewalk crew, I think we'll be able to meet that need. There are some modest increases and organizational changes in engineering and in sewer. These will allow for succession planning in what is really specialized work. And also allow us, particularly in engineering, to better recruit and retain staff. That's a very specialized area. We're competing with the market. We're competing with the Department of Transportation on the state level in terms of salary. And so I think that will help us bring the level up of those staff so that we can be better competitive in that market and retain the best people that we need. And there are funds to address littering in commercial corridors. Littering and dumping are the things that I hear about the most from the community. It's probably the most visible issue related to quality of life. It's the thing that makes people the most upset and most angry, and has been historically one of the more difficult problems to solve. By devoting some resources specifically to littering initiatives, to anti-dumping initiatives, and particularly within some commercial corridors, we think that's going to greatly enhance the quality of life. We currently engage in some educational initiatives, and we do support neighborhood cleanups. And we are working with the police to improve enforcement on things like illegal dumping, but we really believe that there's more we can do. So I'm proud to work at the DPW. I'm excited to be a member of this dedicated team. These are hardworking men and women. And so I thank you for the opportunity to let you know about the work that they're doing, and I'm happy to take any questions you have.
That is excellent. Can I just start off with just the general impression of myself? So I appreciate that you are working on being more proactive, which I think is great, and also more responsive. So I guess the first question I'd like to ask you is how, so as council people, we get the first call and so we need to pass help right away. So how is it that, how do you plan to have council interact with your staff looking forward?
I'd like to, if we had a community liaison, I'd like that person to be kind of the first point of contact. I'm not saying that means that the rest of us are going away, we're not answering our phones. But what I've seen is that, some council members have over the years have cultivated relationships with certain members of our staff. And so that's your person. You each have your own person that you call. And sometimes there can be duplication of effort. Or there can be, the silo, one division doesn't realize the other division is dealt with some aspect of the same problem. So what I'd like to do is kind of straighten that a little bit. And so that the first point of contact would be that community liaison, who would then work with all of the divisions to make sure that it gets responded to. And I think it will get responded to as quickly, if not more quickly.
Great. And then my second question is 311. So from the residents who aren't coming through their council people, they're going on 311 or calling DPW directly.
Sure.
So is the 311 where you get a list of your projects every day? I'd like to know how your department interacts with 311.
Sure.
Whether that will continue.
I think it will continue, and I know that there's discussion and proposals to replace 311 or to upgrade 311. But I can tell you that the managers in this room are all plugged into 311 and receive tasks daily through that system. And that is definitely one of the conduits that we use to receive the work that needs to be done.
Okay. All right. I'm going to open it up because I know everybody has questions and I have one myself, but thank you so much for doing that.
Sure.
Okay, Councilor Geller.
Two questions. You're gonna defund the fiscal advisor, and then you're funding well, it's in your next vision. You're defunding the fiscal advisor, making a manager of fiscal operations, right?
Yeah.
Is that person gonna move over to that position?
So currently the fiscal advisor position is vacant, and so we will be, we have a budget analyst who is filling in that division, and the intent is for her to move into that manager of fiscal operations role.
How about Where are we at? The clerk is being defunded. And then you want to do a community liaison, is that clerk going to go into that community liaison spot?
It's a
Basically, yeah,
What's it,
the clerk is vacant.
is that gonna be a union position, that community liaison?
I don't believe it's,
Yeah.
no, it's scheduled to be a non-union position.
And again, I know you explained, but I'm having a problem that we have deputy directors. And then you're gonna go out and need a community liaison. I don't see why the directors and deputy directors can't. be doing that.
I would kind of
As a
announce,
community liaison, how are they gonna learn all that information? I have a feeling they're gonna go out, he asks questions, bring back to you, you have to answer the question, then we have to go, for our meeting. I want someone to really answer that.
you want something that's right. And so the way I envision it is, if I could compare it to my old life, for 13 years, I was a staff attorney and then chief legal at the Department of Corrections. And one of my side assignments that was given to me was to handle the legislation for the Department of Corrections, which trying to do in like your kind of spare time in addition to all your other duties was preposterous. When I became director, I hired someone to do legislation, and they became my community and legislative person, and it improved the relationship that the department had with the legislature, and improved all, a lot of the functions that we were doing that were very difficult for someone who had another job to try to fill. And that person, much like I envisioned this person, really had to jump right in and learn all about the Department of Corrections. We hired him from the outside, so he didn't come from within, he didn't know anything about the Department of Corrections. To be an effective advocate, he really had to learn all of the operations of the DOC to be able to fill that role. That's how I see this role. It would be someone that would do what I did, spend time with the staff, spend time, go out in the field, see what they do, learn how it works, and then be able to communicate with the public effectively. And I think that by having someone whose job it is to do that, it will allow our department to be a lot more responsive.
Okay,
Yes, please.
then you have in here sewer supervisor, I have a problem with that, only because it's kind of like a deputy director, basically, right?
Well,
It's a sewer supervisor, but here's how I'm looking at numbers, so we got
Sure.
8 people in the sewer department. Now we're gonna have, well, if we bring back the 12, you're gonna have 3 people. You have 8 people working, 3 people supervising. And then an engineering, environmental department, we have 11 people working, and they don't have a supervisor. Like, I'm just trying to make it even across.
Sure, I understand.
So it doesn't seem fair that one department would get a deputy director and the other department who has more responsibility, recycling and trash and everything. I mean, I'm not knocking the sewer, but I'm just saying that they have, it's equal and they don't even have a deputy director. And it's not one put in, so I'm just trying to.
Are you suggesting we should ask for a deputy director for environment?
I mean, I said to everybody in the beginning,
Sure.
police and fire, we got a tough budget.
No, I agree.
We have
So
$11
I don't
million
need to replace
dollars.
that.
We have $11 million short that we have to find as council.
I got it.
And, people come in and they say what they need, and we have a list of, there's $3 million worth of new jobs in this budget.
Mhm.
So it's tough to tell my constituents as well as everybody else's constituents.
Sure.
A little old lady that's on social security and a minimal pension. That from their late husband, you know what, we gotta go and we possibly could increase your taxes by $500 to try to balance our budget.
Right.
And then we're getting all these other added positions, which, I'm not knocking the departments, I think you need some things I don't think you need. As when the fire came in, I'm a retired fireman, they came for the fire department, they came in with their budget because they had a lot of money that they're asking for.
Right.
But I just hope that you understand that we have a tough budget, and it's when we look at things to add. I look at it and think, well, you know what, we haven't had a sewer supervisor in God knows how long. I mean, and we're not even offering, like, I know. Like say, environmental, I asked, the trash cans are over 10 years old. Can we get new trash cans? We're all working on that. I want to be able to go to a little old lady and say, you know what, you're gonna get a new trash and recycle can. And we'll take your magic, whatever we can do.
Right.
Give them something, because I feel we're raising the taxes on those people. And we're not giving them anything but adding more people. And they don't see it, they don't see that, they don't see that.
I
trash
appreciate, I
can.
appreciate that, Councilman, if I could respond, I mean, I understand that any balance is a competition of priorities. And I would say that, you know, to use your example, the little old lady, I mean, when her sewer backs up into her house, or, you know, there's a sewer emergency, we want to make sure that we can respond effectively. I think, the reason for looking for that supervisor is to add that ability for succession. It's a specialized area of work. It's not an area of work a lot of people know a lot about. We want to be competitive. We want to be able to bring people in who can do that work appropriately. And I think there is a missing level there in sewer that is really needed. And knowing what the situation is with the budget and what the other proposals are, we tried to be very judicious in what we asked for. I think it was at my confirmation hearing, I think it was.
All right, so don't be afraid, I didn't these are.
There's a lot we really would like to ask for, but I mean, we try to be very judicious and very deliberative and thoughtful about what we really think we need to provide the best services. To your point about trash cans, there is certainly the trash cans are meeting their sort of their end of life, and we do replace those. We have applied for a grant, which if we succeed, knock on wood, we will be able to replace all of the trash and recycling receptacles in the city, and also they'll be the same size as each other, which is an important consideration. And also there could be possibilities down the road as we negotiate or go out for RFP for waste management, that perhaps canisters could be part of that as well. So it's a fair point on the trash cans, and I appreciate that. But I do think that we were very thoughtful in our requests and put a lot of consideration, knowing what the other challenges of this budget are.
Yes, please.
Have you, and I know I'm pretty sure you have you run into any problems on filling these positions because of that 15% reduction?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Talk to the union, it's a union thing, right? The union, so someone bids from water supply and goes to DBW, they get a 15% knock. So they don't want to, why would you want to go there? Don't say they're both making the same amount of money, we'll make it $25 an hour. Now, when that person goes to water supply to DBW or Box, anywhere, any position, and it goes down 15%. So have you had problems filling those positions? Like, no, if you want cement finishes and you want road control people.
Yes.
People bid me, or we're short and you're asking for more, but we're not gonna get it back.
Yeah.
So, if I may, with respect to the 15% restriction, the administration is currently in dialogue with M33 to find a way to remove that. That no one would be an impediment to recruitment and any possible will be unionized workforce. We'll go more about that as those discussions pursue, but I think there's a great prospect that condition may be removed.
I think that will help you out.
Very much.
Sorry, people bidding some. And my last question is. Dumping, you mentioned dumping, and we all have problems with dumping. Is there any way, I mean, there's probably, I know in my area, there's probably 7 or 8 different areas that I can tell you with dumping. Is there any way that we can get cameras in that area to try to catch them?
So I'll say 2 things about that. I can write them down. I'll forget what they are. So in terms of cameras, I've consulted with Colonel Perez. He and I have had a number of conversations about this. And we have created a list of the top 10 dumping sites, if you will. We have secured 1 camera from the police department right now that is being used. I don't want to say where. I can tell you out in the hallway if you want. But that is meant to catch illegal dumping. The main aspect of illegal dumping is enforcement, and it's so hard to enforce. You have to be right there when it happens, which is practically impossible.
No, not necessarily, because I've actually had dumping in my area on Burrow Street, went through the garbage, found the address, because the address is there. Go into the house, and it's a lady, and she said, "Oh, I paid a guy $150. I'm like, "Well, he just went around the corner and dumped all your stuff. Who did you pay?" And they told me who it was. I went to Chris, banged on his door. Told him the police will be there if he doesn't wake it up.
Well
They
done.
don't wake it up.
Well,
So there is ways
well
to do it.
But you had to be there. you
Right,
know.
but I wasn't there when he dumped.
Okay,
I wasn't there when he dumped it. I just seen his garbage bags everywhere. And I
okay,
went through the garbage and then I knew the lady, I went to, we paid the guy $150, that's what's happening.
that's crazy.
They're paying someone, so then they don't.
So, and we've seen, we've certainly seen the tires and the mattresses and the garbage. And so I think that, anything we can do to enhance enforcement and especially, the police are challenged by their own recruitment woes right now. They have limited resources, so cameras are a big help. And so I was really pleased that Colonel Perez was very receptive and accommodating to my request to help us out in that area.
That's those flat cameras.
It's, I don't think it's a flock camera.
No.
I forget what it's called, but I know what a flock camera is and it's not that. The second thing though that I wanted to mention is I'm a member of a work group, with, Department of Inspections and Standards and Public Property, believe it or not, arts and tourism. And we are looking at those quality of life issues like graffiti and dumping. And so we're learning where we can streamline our resources, learning where maybe the overlaps are that, wait a minute, you inspect for this, or we're inspecting for this too, that kind of thing. Getting everyone around the table, create that network to try to combat those kinds of issues, dumping is top of the list.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you for the presentation and the numbers, finance team. No, I just want to start I have a couple questions, but I just want to make a comment that DPW is exactly where the city should be making investments. I started, conversation with public and fire, police and fire on Tuesday, stating, I referenced a report from the expenditure council, just showing how much we're spending on public safety compared to, regional and national, size cities to our size. And in the report, it says DPW parks is exactly where we should be making more investments. So I thank you for asking for more and having this conversation. This is a good starting point. But my first question is, I know you touched on it a little bit in terms of being more proactive instead of reactive. Is there someone specific in DPW that's looking at current policies, that's changing those policies, updating policies? Is there anyone doing policy work, I guess is where I'm getting at?
I mean, specifically, no, I don't have a policy person or a policy unit, like I did where I came from. But we do look at things. When I say we right now, I'm basically talking about Maureen and I, we talk about 4,000 times a day, which I love. But I'm challenging myself and I'm challenging the people that work at DPW to look at the way we do things and what the rules are and ask, can we do this differently? Should we do it differently? Can we do it better? And so we are looking at things like permit fees, the tickets that we issue to people to see, kind of asking what works and what's not working. And for those things that we think are not working, what do we need to do to change them? So we're not kind of going through policy by policy, if you will. Not a lot of what we do is really written in policy.
Right.
But we are asking those questions on a daily basis. How can we do this better? How can we do this different?
Is specific to a policy, something that I experienced not too long ago. So scenario is if I go dump 10 mattresses in front of your house, to Councilor Animal, you're now responsible for the disposal of that. Like, is that policy that is written somewhere, or has been reviewed, or who came up with such policy?
Yeah, I'm gonna defer to Al on that. Do you want to talk about it? I mean, before you start, I can say that, people are responsible for what's in front of their residence. There are various ways to rid yourself of a mattress. If it's a mattress, you can contact Waste Management. You have to bag it and they'll pick it up and there's a fee, or every single Saturday you can come to Allen's Ave and dispose of those mattresses for free. Mattresses that are in good condition, we have a trailer that we can keep them clean and dry so that they can be recycled. If they're not, if they're dumped,
that's not recyclable, and the city pays to dispose of those mattresses. But I know Al has familiarity with the situation that you're talking about, if you want to answer that.
Well, that incident you're talking about, that 12311, that referred to us at APW. It was responded by somebody at CTA, explaining to that resident, the owner of that property, who might have had, I don't think he lists that, however, it's on the books, it's in the ordinance of 1950. That's what the gentleman that comes to get issue. So it's in the ordinance, and we enforce that. So we ended up going out 2 weeks later, we issued it, and the woman wasn't agreeing with that. And we ended up discussing this, but basically we own land, property, and it's accountable for exactly on the property. If you own a lot, that's it. You have to be, again, you have to be proactive to reduce those chances of the property. But it's hard to me not to have it, it's only right down the street. And there's a property, big property developed where they can put in the isolated area. So a lot of times, isolated areas, they may have problems with the school houses on that property. And when the woman wrote the email, she claimed that the mattresses were still there. I sent one of my inspectors out. So when we write it, we have highway pick it up. No one else picks it up, we pick it up. And that pays for the bottom. But the mattresses weren't, she stated that they weren't there. They should. Almost tell me that she's not living at that property. Because I will see that based on that. Until the minute the tenant is telling her it's still there. It's very only the tenant put it up because again, you don't just take it out, you don't just take something out, right? You put matches. The whole area, probably they don't see. I mean, you know what the residents do. I mean, you think about install these things out there, something comes. It's a difficult situation. So for us, that's the way we treat our that is in the middle. What I'm told by
But in that particular situation, in consideration of the fact that the person had contacted 311, had tried to remedy that situation, I asked Al if he would dismiss the ticket, and so that's why we dismissed that ticket.
No, I appreciate that, and I'm just gonna push back a little bit on like you saying that Allen's Avenue is an option, waste management is an option. But a financial barrier is in between the resident and those options at the end of the day. Whether that is getting someone with a vehicle to take it to Allen's Avenue, or you having to pay the fee and finding a piece of plastic. If we could somehow do a cost analysis on the mattress collection, picking it up, just because at the end of the day, the mattress needs to get disposed of at the end of the day, whether it's the resident paying someone, whether it's the city. So I'm really interested in that part of like the contract with waste management. I know it's gonna be coming up in the next few years, so, and I appreciate you guys being flexible. And then just my next question, I'm not really familiar with you, Deputy Director Maureen. Can you just explain like some of your day-to-day responsibilities, roles?
So I coordinate with the director, and cover the her issues out. It's pretty much day-to-day operations, and we're seeing in all 7 divisions. So anywhere from a fire happening during the day that we have to triage, working with sewer, in the field with the guys, going out, they're doing their work and seeing if they need support, and really just supporting whatever our divisions ask for. So that's really my main goal on the side, because I used to be the environmental director for about a year and a half. I can feel very passionate about environmental education. So during the day, sometimes I do go to schools. I actually was with Councilor Taylor the other day. And so mother, yes, so I do like to, that's my passion. So that's something I like to do on the side as well as part of my position. But that's pretty much, yeah.
Thank you. With that being said, is our environmental division working with all at all, like the sustainability department of the city? Is there any intersectional work going on in that aspect?
Yep, so currently that grant that Tristan was referring to actually is in combination with sustainability, so they actually work with us to submit that grant for the full replacement of cars throughout the city. So we try and work with them as much as possible. Again, that department does span a whole city, so they work with each department individually. But we do work with them, especially on stormwater management, we work with them as well.
Thank you. My last question for now, is there any updates on the traffic calming ponds?
Yes.
My constituents are very passionate about speed bumps. I don't have too much of an opinion one way or another, but I have a lot of Latino specifically constituents that want their speed bumps in their road and. I'm not gonna lie, it's been frustrating up to this part.
I understand, and so what I can tell you is that we are presenting a traffic calming strategy, if you will, to the administration. I believe it's next week. We believe that after that, after some decision points are met with the mayor, that I'll be able to answer that more fully after we have that meeting. But we're taking a look at all of the various methods for traffic calming, not just speed bumps, and making sure that we're choosing the right one in the right place at the right time, rather than just sort of blindly throwing in speed bumps, but that might not always be the best option, depending on where you are. And so I know, and I appreciate your patience, because you and I have talked about this a few times, and so I understand that you're getting pressure from your constituents, but it is something that we are moving forward with. We just want to make sure that we're being very thoughtful about where those kinds of devices go and how they work, and what will work best in each location. So stay tuned, because that meeting is supposed to be over next week.
Councilor Anderson. Okay, yes, please, go right through your list. And then you can go through your list, and then you can go through your list. And then I can go through mine.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks. First, thank you all so much for all the work you do, and I know several members of your department were at my last community meeting. You guys were there till like after 9 p.m. We shut down the rec center. It was a party. But answering everything from like there's a rat dissolving in the sidewalk to really exciting stuff. So thank you for everything all the time. I had a few questions. First, just follow up on Councilor Sanchez. Is it possible after you get the thumbs up from the administration, it would be great if you could share even drafts with us early? We're getting I'm also getting a lot of notes, but also being in the neighborhoods, seeing what's going on, just having a heads up when investments are going to be made, what the thinking was behind them. Right. I get a lot of questions like, what was the mayor thinking about blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I have no idea. I'm not the mayor, it's a different department. So the more information you can share with us, the better. It's just a request. I have a few specifics. To the question about waste management, when is that contract up for renegotiation?
So that it just went through the BOCF. And it needs to be assigned to this committee.
And that starts July 1, and then we will have an amendment option to do an additional year, or we can go out to the bid. So right now, we're going to be going to the years. Can I just interrupt you? I'm so sorry. So sorry. Yes, but you did say that the waste management contract is being extended. So looking into the contract negotiations for a 1-year extension, right now it's going to end June 30th. And we are going to be involved in that. Are we going to be involved in that? Because we are going to have a big question on, we would like to discuss that.
Yes.
Extension.
Yes, you will be.
All right.
Yes, you will be.
I'm just making sure.
Madam Chair, this is a continuation of a discussion that was held earlier this year. We were given some background on that, and probably the best of what's available at this time, given the rising prices and the availability of a vendor that can deliver the services the city needs. It's where we're at.
Yeah, okay, well, as long as we're going to be having a discussion about that separately in this separate finance statement for this management contract. council this week. So we're gonna confirm the revenue stuff to cover it.
Right.
No, it was mentioned. Okay, thank you. All right, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. There were two different departments where there was revenue generated, and I was wondering what the revenue, where the revenue comes from. So where does the sewer department revenue come from and the environment revenue?
Sewer, there are permits that are required for construction. So that's where, is there any other revenue from sewer?
Just permits.
Thank you. That's it. And the other one was,
Environment,
the revenue from environment, that's similar things, like the canisters, and, I don't know, the fines aren't included in that, are they?
Yeah, the 70,000 parts.
Okay.
So that's what it is.
okay,
It's like the sales of garbage receptacles.
oh, okay.
Combined garbage cart.
If they want like an extra garbage card. Okay. And then also in environmental, I have two questions. We have an allowance for one city recycling coordinator, but there's no funding for the state recycling coordinator. And my understanding, which could be old, is that we spend a very large amount of money in fines for a large quantity of contaminated recycling. So would a recycling coordinator help us potentially like do better education, do better, I don't want to say fines, but education ahead of time, so folks know when they're not. There was a pilot of this, I want to say, was like 2018, and like even just seeing like a little bit of education for folks ahead of time was really improving the recycling rates. I think it was 2018, we were spending like $1 million like between fines and then sending it off to the waste management, not waste management, resource recovery after it was rejected from MRF. So I'm just wondering, like, in light of all that, why we wouldn't fund a recycling coordinator.
So I think I agree with you, yes, and consistent education is very important, and I would be part of the community, because that's not a position, like that needs to be some system to again, take through some of that. Right, exactly, take each of these positions and be that person, because again, environmental goes to every meeting, and having someone that's there, and does that proactive education part is part of that job. Again, that job includes social media outreach, right, so actually doing like a lot of our. Yeah, so I think that would be a lot of it, and the educational information with that. So, yeah.
Thank you. Ms. McGinnis. And then a few more. Also in environmental for refuse processing, 52020, it's about $4 million. Is that what we spend in both fees and fines with waste, with all of our trash recycling?
So that refuse processing is for that resource recovery bill, so that when it gets to the landfill, that's the cost.
That's the cost per year. I have a few more, so be quick, I promise. Also I don't think it's environmental, it's in traffic engineering. We have allowances for 2 bilingual clerks and no funding for bilingual clerks. Do we have bilingual staff? Or multilingual staff? It's on, it's in the personnel supplement. Okay. Page 8.
so, we do have bilingual staff. And we do currently have a posting for a bilingual clerk in the admin area. So that would be someone who would help people that come in that don't speak English or speak this language. In terms of traffic, those positions are vacant.
They're vacant now.
And so I'm not sure where they funded in 22.
There was one bilingual clerk for funded in 2022, and that was defunded in fiscal, I'm sorry, they were funded in fiscal 2023, defunded in fiscal 2024.
Did they leave or?
It was a vacant
Oh,
position.
vacant,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Yes, and there's also allowed a clerk 1 bilingual, but that was not funded in 23 as well.
And then I think just to agree, I know that you guys need a new building. Is that going to be in the capital improvement plan or like where's you guys not working in bad conditions in the budget? Because that's not okay. I'll just say that.
Agree, it's not, we're not there yet.
Okay.
We're talking, we're planning, we haven't gotten to that point yet, but I agree,
That'll be a future.
you bet.
Okay. I was just looking for it and was like, wait. I want them to have good working environment.
As do I.
And then the overnight parking, are we just seeing fewer people apply for those permits? Or are we doing less enforcement of overnight parking so that people aren't applying for the permit because they're not getting dinged if they don't have it? Or like,
So Liza Farr, who is our outstanding curbside administrator, and we love her very much. She's leaving us.
wait, what?
Tomorrow for the last day as a city of Providence employee. So I'm gonna turn that question over to Liza. Punishment for revenge. No, honestly, I'm turning it over because she is incredibly knowledgeable about all of it, so.
Second question, where are you going? This is so sad.
I'm going to stay with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Still government. Still transportation. But it's not fun, what a way to go out.
Okay, so
So, I believe it was budgeted for 660K for this year. It was an increase from what was budgeted for the previous year. And I'm not sure why that decision was made at that time, but what I do know is that the revenue flatlined over those years. And it did not kind of increase that 6 years, so that had to be. So what we're seeing now is it's still approximately flat, and we are still, I just checked the, for this one year to date, compared to last fiscal year to date, and we're still the 62K, lower than our last fiscal year. We don't have an explanation for that. I'm not sure if people are buying for permits, if people are really parking, enforcing this more or less. I really don't know, but those are the numbers.
Okay, thank you, Liza. We're not necessarily depressed, but we'll ask you 2 more questions. As long as it's okay. I have a question about green infrastructure. So as we're doing all the sidewalk crews, the repavements, are we looking at investments in like permeable pavement, things that will help with our stormwater management? Like how are we like updating the materials and the things that we're using to reflect like the more intense storms and rainfall and things that we're gonna be getting and already are getting?
So I'm gonna ask Craig to take that.
As we've got a lot of different solutions for sidewalk repairs and approaches. When possible, we're expanding tree wells at the County Tree Road. We're installing grass strips where feasible, where neighbors and butters have grass currently cut, and we don't want to burn something with putting grass there on the lawn. We have looked at those permeable paper solutions, but we can't realize the magnitude of cost. Still double, triple, we pay for traditional concrete or asphalt patching. So we have been talking with the forester about kind of realizing and being cooperative in those approaches. So as we come to something that triggers, we're going to forestry to come up with bulk, bulk grouping of these locations, grab a contract for that.
And while I have you, can I ask about the asphalt repavement? Because I know that in the winter in particular, it seems like there's the black asphalt that gets put out. How do you decide when to use that kind of black asphalt? I'm thinking of a few specific examples where I got complaints from neighbors, which I think I've shared with you, where like the asphalt starts to come apart. One of it was in front of like the dog grooming and we started getting in the dog's fur and then had to move it out. It was like the whole thing. So how do you make those decisions when to use the like black asphalt versus other types of repairs?
Yeah, so the only asphalt being manufactured to my knowledge around is that black.
Yeah.
Type asphalt. It's a right out standard.
I guess, just to clarify the question, versus like actually just like putting in a new sidewalk there or fixing the sidewalk. And
Okay, all right, so sidewalk.
yeah.
So we're predominantly using concrete as our sidewalk material. Certainly more durable. It's not so subject to UV radiation like asphalt sidewalk. Where we may use asphalt is at a sensitive tree area where we know it's going to keep this up with concrete. Asphalt may be a temporary band-aid until maybe that tree fails down the line. It's less expensive and it's easier to work. So that's one place that we may use it. And our highway department utilizes that to sometimes bridge trip hazards, so we can man up with asphalt as a temporary solution. If again, it's a tree uplift or concrete improvements and staff to go into this traffic. We're really trying to get away from asphalt as a sidewalk material. Mirror we may use it is again, if it's predominantly asphalt on the street, we don't want to start getting into different materials. We may want to be consistent in that's the material on the street.
Yeah, and then if asphalt is used as like a temporary, like kludge, is it possible to then come back and have like a full solution? Like if it is just like, this was an emergency thing, there was like crack, but now now the asphalt is the issue. Does that stay on your radar, or is that something like as counselors, we would think we bring back up to like, hey, your dog place doesn't like.
Yeah,
I would call. Last time I went.
yeah, I think it's much preferred to make that permanent solution. I think with the request for a second sidewalk through over the implement. So.
Thank you. Because you brought up trees, and then I will be done. How do you guys do kind of like the cross agency partnership? So I know trees are incredibly important to me, increasing our tree, they're forest in the city, and also we know that they cause these sidewalks issues. How are you working with like parks or the other agencies who are putting in the trees? So when like a tree goes down or when the sidewalk is repaired, like how are you partnering across with agencies to make sure we're achieving both goals?
So I think that communication takes place on a regular basis, not just with engineering, but also with sewer. There's lots of conversations with parks and the forestry. If you want to answer that.
Yeah, on sidewalk projects, we have this terms that I was informed, there's always a coordination with forestry department. Forestry is doing the bulk of tree removal, tree root trimming, especially for the highway department. And when we have contractor repairs, that's our preference also. Much easier for us to have department house crews do that. But they can't always serve our needs also. We hold this at the contractor schedules. So yeah, there is a lot of coordination. If we determine that a tree is looking held out, we will consult the forester to get their concurrence in removal. We'll also consider things like maybe tree wells in place for future plantings. Again, cut the cost, so need to install concrete that we plan to put out in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So yes, the forestry department is they're aware of our projects and coordination is almost a daily activity.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think I can do that.
Okay. Okay, Councilor Carter.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, thank you very much for all your work. And your comment so far have been really outstanding, responding to at least to me, and I hear from other wards, and I've visited some of the liberty meetings, stayed long hours, and working with Sal and Al and also classmate from a pleasant. So, and obviously, I think that as Councilman indicated, quality of life, that's the #1 complaint that we heard when we were running, and even that served in Providence, that's always been the main complaint. And it is our goal, my goal to be one of the, cleanest neighborhoods, and all of our goal is to do that. And you guys are right on the forefront of that. And that's why I would agree with Councilman here indicating that that's where we need to also invest more and innovate a little bit more. I think that as I've spoken to people in your department and also outside and looking for the best practices, I think that we may have some great opportunities to generate more revenue that can really work with the sustainability committee and then also grow more revenue, whether it's recycling more of the mattresses. I didn't know about the program where you have to bag a mattress, and that's the best scenario, right? That we can actually perhaps invest in educating our residents and informing them about using bags, or that we can provide bags or buy bags. So with that said, I wanted to ask you a question in reference to any thought on or conversation on being innovative and projecting some type of revenue enhancing through the department. Because it's very few departments that actually can generate some
Sure. One of the things that I've looked at, it's not really part of the budget per se, but since you asked. I've been, had conversations with the solicitor's office, that's what I'm saying. About, for example, the fines that we issued. We issued over $1 million in fines last year. We collected on, I think 20%, 20%, 20%. So, and it's because our fines don't have any teeth. If you don't pay them, nothing happens. And so that's a conversation I'm having with the solicitor's office about those ordinances, and is there a way to change it? There's a couple of other, what I would say, innovations that I'm speaking to them about, but all with an eye toward, you know, rather than just spinning our wheels in this system where we issue fines and we go to municipal court and some people show up and some people don't, and most people don't, and most people don't pay. Like, what are we doing? You know, and so try to make that work better, as well as a couple of other ideas that I've taken from the state level, as well as some other states initiatives that they've done to try to enhance their programs, to bring in some. So, and I'm open to conversations with you or other members of the council on that. If you have other ideas, for example, the mattresses or what have you, I'd be happy to have that conversation.
Sure, that'd be great. Some states or some cities will have a program of great jobs in recycling and so forth. And I think we generate revenues to support the liaison or other smaller jobs that don't require an IT degree or a degree. I think that's a way that we can start thinking about more so. And as you build a new facility, keep those things in mind. And we can talk about that. The two questions in terms of contract. And I know that there was one asked about the garbage waste management, and we're gonna have a separate meeting on that. Any thought? Well, I just put it out there so that way maybe when we have this, any thought about splitting the waste management garbage pickup? It just seems that
In what way?
so it's only one contract.
Mhm.
The trash and recycling all done at the same time, and you know, that kind of stuff. And you don't have to answer now. I mean, you could have a, you know, more in depth when we have that specific conversation, but just put it out there. The other is in terms of the parking meters. Just seeing in the sense that the young lady over there, Liza, indicated that we just kind of hit a plateau there, right? Just a level.
Well, that was on the overnight permits.
Oh, with that,
There was a, right, there was a.
how about in the parking, was that increased or decreased? And when I asked that is also because many times when I'm at the time to go park in downtown, most of these meters are not working. You know, and so what are we doing about that? When does the contract expire? Who has it? And can we innovate once again regarding parking? You know, when you go to Chicago or New York, you have a combination of, you know, really good meters that people could actually see what they're paying. Because here it's unbelievable. It's so frustrating. I hear visitors just swearing at us as a city. So how can we actually improve on those meters where we're actually also generating some income because they're also part of a marketing tool like in New York City and so forth.
Sure, and so I'll say something briefly and then turn it over to Liza. She really is the expert on this. And she so one of the things I will say is yes, and I feel that pain and recently felt it myself when I was using my personal vehicle and parked at a meter and was late for meeting at City Hall and realized that I didn't have any quarters on me and I didn't have the app. I was like, oh my God, I'm like one of these people that I hear about. You know, so we would like to have some more consistency so that the all methods of payment are available no matter what meter you're at. You know, when I picture my 88-year-old father trying to download an app to pay a parking meter, I know how that story ends and not pretty. And so I definitely feel that pain. It needs to be consistent. There are issues with our current meters. We're taking a look at whether it's time to explore the possibility of replacing something, to get something more consistent, and uniform across the city. That can also provide a level of service that we haven't really had up to date because of the technology. It has evolved. And so that's definitely something that I'd like to see our department and the city move toward, and we just started those conversations. But if you have specific questions about the revenue or about
Yeah, so,
what works and what doesn't, that's when I would turn to Lois.
yeah.
So based on my most recent calculations from again, fiscal years now compared to last fiscal year now, we are currently about 250,000 behind on revenue as compared to last year. And that can be due to any number of factors, but I in my professional opinion, think it has to do a lot with growth meters. A lot of those have gone down over the past fiscal year. And like 7 to 10 years on all of our meters right now, their age, which is very honest. Did that come in December to take a look at that and this assessment what that means to replace a lot of them. They are very good. Those types of things. But it's just regular meter parts that come out of my $2,000 meter part budget. And so that's why we're excited to see to get some place. The other thing I will say on the revenue passport, because it's not challenging for people to use, but it does currently make up 70% of our revenue, and that percentage and total revenue is growing every.
So the other question is this under a contract or is it, we just manage it inside?
So the passport contract, it is a contract that we have that we're paying back, and actually, the one that's on right now expires at the end of this calendar year, December 31st. The meters, we have one, well, we have contracts that we figured out on the meter parts. And for the monthly fees that we pay, we collect our fees. Like that. So, but when we purchase new meters, we don't like have a specific contract set for us.
So the parking, so we have no contract for a company that maintains our meters.
We do the maintenance in-house, although we are able to get technicians to come out periodically to tell us things like.
Who is maintaining an in-house license? This is, I know it's not within your budget, so I think, but we need to know, we haven't had functioning meters for quite a long time now, and who do we have within the department that's maintaining the meters?
So we have,
Yeah, it's my first, so there's 3 early maintenance persons that are within my division. 2 of those do spend a lot of their time collecting the police, so that they go on weekly routes to collect all the things. They also go out summer maintenance, and then one of those maintenance persons manages the overall maintenance of the meters, like batteries, and screens, and trying to troubleshoot them, but they're not like a trained technician. Meters. So whenever we have those technical questions, we end up having to call to get a search permit, look at these things. So that, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's fine. So I would suggest that if we can talk more about it, because I think I just heard December 31st is the contract that's coming up. Maybe we could look at this more comprehensively. So that way, next budget, we are talking more revenue, more technology, and really bring our city parking issues down. As far as the post cleanup for crew. Once we have activities in downtown or neighborhoods. Does that contribute to overtime? when it comes to festivals or, in the downtown area and so forth.
It would depend on the day.
Huh?
Yes, it would depend on the day, obviously, if it's a, a weekend event. It depends,
Yeah.
there's variables there. Generally, yeah, there's probably an aspect of overtime. It depends on the number of people on the crew, the day, the time of day, or the day of the week, so forth.
Have you counted for that or depending on many of the activities and events that we have in the city?
I'm sorry. I didn't-
Has it been programmed in the budget for overtime or post event cleanups and so forth?
So we do send this, for that, I guess I can. What if it goes to that,
Yeah, well-
TV fest, something like that?
DVD,
St. Patrick's Day Parade.
ratings,
Okay.
concerts in the neighborhoods, who cleans up, even though, they go through the checklist of a promoter pretty much, but they have to take care of
Sure.
their surrounding, but in the neighborhoods, usually when there's a big concert or whatever it is, you account for those DPW coming out.
So typically before and after a big event like that, we will send the street sweeper out, and then also, part of this litter initiative event is money that we're asking for, would include something with post-event type issues like that and main quarters.
I don't think that in terms of our overtime budget, there's a specific line attributable to those kinds of cleanups in particular,
But,
but it's definitely the fact.
something to watch.
Councilor Bennett, next, one of your previous questions, so we currently do have a draft RFP for trash and recycling collection, and we do have an option in there for multiple vendors to actually bid on it, so that was your previous question. So we have a draft currently that we're working on. So that's something we've already thought about.
So that's coming.
That's something to consider, yes, correct.
Thank you.
Councilor Vargas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your time to be here and it's been 5 months. You've been in my job. About the license position that you're asking for. How this person is going to do to go to 3 meetings at the same night? Like we are 15
Sure.
concept persons and the best way to learn for a director is to go into these community meetings. And I've been having so far 3 community meetings, you haven't shown up to those meetings yet. It's because my community is like I don't know what kind of community is mine, but we pay enough taxes
I get it.
to pay for
Yeah.
your salaries and all your crew. And now you play in this position, I see it's not going to work. It's better off to look a different way to work on it.
Yeah, I can appreciate that concern, and if I were in your shoes, I would have that too, that it, is this person now gonna make the director, am I gonna sit in my ivory tower and not engage with the community? Not at all the intention. I know that I've missed your meetings, you and I did have a meeting together personally, but I have not made it to one of your award meetings, I've been to a number of award meetings. And I have every confidence in the staff of DPW who have attended. And I apologize for scheduling conflicts that don't always let me go to free meetings in a night. But I mean, I can tell you that I went to a ward meeting for Councilwoman Peterson, and there was a woman there who was very angry, and I understood why she was angry. But she basically said, no one cares about my neighborhood. No one walks around my neighborhood unless they're running for office. And so I went over to her and I gave her my card and I said, call me, I'll take a walk with you. And I did, Al and I and an environmental inspector, and Councilwoman Peterson, spent about 2 hours with this woman walking around the neighborhood, as she pointed out, the place that everybody dumps the mattresses and an issue that she had with the sewer line and so forth, and we helped address those, but really just having that moment, and she thanks me later, just having that moment of like human interaction with the director of the department that was responsible for the issues she was concerned about, meant a lot to her, and that's not something I see myself taking away. I've never been the kind of person that, like sits in that ivory tower. I mean, the thing I talked about in the beginning about sitting in the snowplow and watching the guys fill the potholes and that, I love that stuff, and I don't want to give that up. I think though that the department could definitely benefit from someone who really is that first point of community contact. And certainly if there's 3 meetings in one night, they'll be at one and I'll be at one and Mo will probably be at the third one. We're not stepping back. We want to increase our visibility. We want to, we don't want to decrease our visibility. We want to increase the visibility and the networking of the department as a whole. I really think that position will help us do that.
We have to figure it out, yeah. Now, going back to the traffic count. I've been getting 5 phone calls every day about my traffic count, because since last year, we went through this and they got approved. Now the mayor saying something else that he want to go a different approach. I'm thinking the mayor's talking about from now on, not before. What happens before will be grandfather rights or grandfather right to stay on, and I'm still waiting for these to be approved. And I did have meeting with that department and they were approved back then to get my traffic counts. And now that the people's asking me, where's my traffic counts? Why they're not here? And if we keep waiting another week, and then by the time they go out and bid, they will say, oh, it's too late now. Fall is around the corner, then will be winter, then we don't see no traffic count. So at the end of the day, we came like being the liar person to the constituents, and we come to you, department, trusting that you're going to be helping that community, because DPW is the heart of the city. Everything happens through DPW. Nothing moves if DPW doesn't move. And that's why we need to have that relationship between you, department, DPW, that community, and we, because we don't work full time.
Right.
This is something that we love to do, to have a better style, to live better in the community. And we are the one who lives in the community. We are the ones who face the constituents all the time. We work, we are children of our schools. It's not something that you guys come back and then you don't see what's going on later on, because you have a family, you have to go and enjoy your life. Good, we understand that. But we need a lot of help. Trying to work with our community. We have a 45% Latino community in this city. And I don't see anyone who's here who speaks the language. As a director, as deputy director. So it's something for you to work on, how you're going to diversify, like how you want to balance the trade so the people can communicate better.
Sure.
And that will be the perfect time. And I've been having great experience with your department. And I want to keep going that way, but I would like to be straight, like you are clear, and I want to be clear too. I asked for my speed bike to be removed since a year and a half. You have the resolution. You go see the Manton Avenue, it's a disaster. That way it looks now. It's better off, take it out and will look cleaner.
Right.
Talking about street sweepers. I haven't seen street sweepers. And we have 2 machines on the DPW, right?
So the street sweeping is done on a nightly basis. We do have 3 street sweepers, we usually run 2. And that's done on the 3rd shift, as well as a vendor that we have for street sweeping. And so in the last administration, some ARPA money was used to increase the frequency of street sweeping to 4 times a year. And our budget request seeks to maintain that level of service now that the ARPA money is gone. And so the schedule for the street sweeping by ward is posted on the Providence website. And so, I mean, I think 4 times a year is a good rate. It's an increased rate over I think what had been.
According to the ordinance, it's 6 times. It's an ordinance there that says 6 times a year. Got changed last year, so
Okay.
we don't know how we're going to do it, but at least if we can get it once out, even at daytime, they can go out daytime. I
think it's more
understand.
difficult in the daytime because
I understand it's difficult, but even if it's 2 cars, you leave that there, you leave that, at least 50% is done at the city by cleaning during daytime. You can pick up streets that didn't have no much traffic, go around and pick up. Like the trash company does. The trash company pick up this one, doesn't pick up that one because it's a car in the front, but he never came back for it. That's another issue that we have in the trash company. And it's a lot of little problems that we have with our department. And I know you're working very hard to make it work. But by creating more positions,
Sure.
it's not going to be working because you have enough people. Can I finish?
Sure, I'm sorry.
We have enough people in this department. The only thing they have to do is divide it, like send some people here, some people there, and get the department moving forward. But creating more jobs, I understand we need a job and our people need a job. But our taxpayers, they up here, they cannot afford it no more.
I think, part of the frustration, if I may,
Go ahead.
from constituents is the level of service that they're receiving or frankly not receiving in their minds. And I think, it was Councilman Sanchez that pointed out accurately that an investment in DPW is a good thing. And, certainly I believe over the years, it's probably lost resources like a lot of places have in government. And so by asking for additional resources, we're not looking to, no one's going to put up their feet, we want to be able to provide a level of service that the people of Providence deserve. And I think that we've been thoughtful about what those asks have been and trying to focus on areas where we think we'll get the most bang for our buck, if you will. In terms of diversity, though, I'd like to address that. There's a large contingent of our staff that are bilingual. They're not at this level. And it's an experience that I'm well familiar with, coming from the Department of Corrections, where, we had a lot of line staff that were members of minority communities, but the upper management, not so much. And that's something that I'm very passionate about and proud of the fact that I was able to raise the level of diversity with the Department of Corrections in my tenure. Certainly, I think a community liaison person who is bilingual would have an edge over someone who's not. Because of the community that we're looking to deal with. And so I share your concern on that level, and it's something that I'm committed to working to improve.
Can I just add a point real quick to the street sweeping part?
Yes.
I think just the visibility of it would make a great difference. A lot of folks in the community just don't see them because it happens at night. So I think even if we do it on a part-time or leave schedule during the day, I think that'd be super beneficial, something to think about.
I'm going to turn around and say, are there any operational impediments to doing the street sweeping during the day? Is there a reason why it wouldn't make sense to do it sometime during the day? Yeah.
It goes so slow. When somebody back a lot of us, but at time we love that they dump it and you try to doing it, but we said, right, keep it by the way, off the Avenue. Do like the main road.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sal. I just want to make a quick comment. Sal was always super responsive to Ken, and I feel like a lot of unsung.
Yeah. Council Vargas.
Can I continue? On the trash bags. The bote de basura, that they have more, no, that means of trash bags.
Okay.
They have more than 10 years, right? We're working on it to get our grant. How much is the grant that we're trying to get?
I think it's 3 million, the grant that we're seeking for the trash barrels.
Well, it's supposed to have over the 2 to 3 year period. It's money available of each year. But the plan is to get certain inspections each year. We want to concentrate on the worst and second year. But the program will work with the 5 for the 95 gallon barrel. My opinion, I think that a lot of people share the same opinion, is that the 60 guys are too small. There's more people living in now, 63 people, children, grandchildren, and they're generating more trash. The 65 is not big. So the people that can't get rid of all that trash, the excess trash ends up in the recycling. Now, that's maybe the big reason why recycling efforts. I know that well. So we're asking for 95 gallon barrel each trash and recycling. Yeah, I think it's going to be, I think the total is something like 150
Everyone in the city gets to that. But it's going to be, it's not all at once. It's going to be, I think that they do us.
By phases.
The first phase, I think, it was that, the EPA knows that situation. So they know that we're not that great. But I think they'll give us that, actually, because I hope that they give us that. Which will hopefully help with that respect.
3 million will be enough to do the whole city?
No, I think total is what we can. It's about 10 million, but I think they're going to prescribe it from the resident, from the owners, that they're going to put in. Writing that down, the resident to do that, they're going to prescribe it, and then not somewhere not even. Because they're giving us a great deal on batteries. Those batteries, those 95, for single of $100. They're giving us that since we're going up to the low $50 rate. It's going to be a hell of a deal. If we can get it right.
Well, let's keep praying so we can get it.
Yeah.
So going back to the trash, we have a lot of broken leads. Is any way that we can have laborers and from another department and give it to this department and go into the streets and inspect those and replace those at the same time? Yes, in my community, every time I walk the neighborhood, I count like 5 to 20 broken leads. And or chewing by the rats. The
Right.
rats have been eating them like, they eat plastic like eating cheese. I don't know what's going on with this plastic, but something's going on.
Right.
And we have to look for a solution, how to terminate this problem that we have.
Mhm.
And we have to work very hard, or we have to bait or creating a resolution to bait the whole city or the areas where we have more rats. And or go out and start inspecting these trash carts to replace the leads. And I've been replacing leads since I started campaigning, and then now in the councilman, they call me, oh, councilman, can I get a lead? I said, yeah, I got it, go change it.
Mhm.
But it's not only that one, so I see next door, well, it's the same thing.
So the carts are nearing their end of life.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know that the environmental inspectors that go out, because I went out for one, they do look at that. They do look at, the lids, whether there is one, or whether it's broken. There is a mechanism for a constituent to request a new lid. But again, I think, again, not to pin all our hopes on this grant, but I, really, really hope that we'll be able to attain that, and that's gonna solve a lot of the kinds of problems that you're talking about.
And the issue, Director, is that not everybody called for a broken lead. Because they mostly are renters,
Mhm.
the property owner doesn't live there, and he don't know if then he has a trash cart. That's the issue, that's why I'm saying like, will be good for us if we can walk, I'm willing to walk with them and go into the street at the trash day. And or I can go before and get a spray paint and paint this one, it's not good, so at least they can see it, that's not good. But something has to be done, please help us with doing that, because it's getting old.
Let's talk about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm just gonna run through my questions. Thank you for your patience and thank you all for your. So, you have a grant writer that is doing all your grant applications. How are you handling that?
Well, sustainability, I was kind of. Sustainability, worked with us on this grant application. Very few, I think, city departments actually have someone that's dedicated to that work, and I know that's something that the administration is really looking at. I think there's a sense, or at least I have a sense that there's money out there, but it's a grant writing is a very intensive process, and so I'm hopeful that the administration will move towards a model where we can have someone who's dedicated to that.
Because I know Liza has applied for some recently, right, some of her studies, and I mean, we need the grant.
Great.
We need the grant. I also wanted just to check on traffic engineering. I think we have an increase in from 37,750 to 60,000 in traffic signs. So I was wondering what was going on with that.
That's mainly due to kind of end of life they wear out, they get graffiti, they get tired, they get broken, they go missing. And certainly I think the cost of materials is a factor in that, but
And
that's.
are we having trouble managing, hiring people? Are we fully staffed in that traffic engineering department, Mr. Urso?
We're fully staffed, yeah.
Yeah, one position that filled is the second means person. So that's getting a little bit of constantly. We'll keep some ways to track that with better package.
Okay,
That's one area that's sort of low.
okay. Is there a backlog in science? Is that what's going on, or is there a backlog of, or,
Well, they just make the facts.
oh, signals, okay. And is that causing us to not handle our issues with traffic signals?
I think they're keeping up with the day-to-day maintenance of it, and some of the special items that we do, we're not being able to do this type of, like, the specialized traffic work. But I don't think there's, traffic signals are not functioning, working, doesn't mean it's great. The other thing concerned about that is succession of the traffic signal foreman. Is retiring, so it's one of my big concerns.
You have sufficient, you're offering a sufficient salary to attract these, to fill these positions, or?
That's one thing we're trying to do.
Okay, all right.
Moving on.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I appreciate what you've been doing in the community. The other thing I wanted to move on to is my engineering department. I wanted to hear from our chief engineer, whether there's been a very long conversation going on about that we haven't been able to attract engineers. And I need to know that we have the sufficient salaries to attract and retain our engineer, and whether we have enough of them.
I'm happy to report that all of our engineer positions are filled today.
Well, congrats.
We do have two vacancies though. One is a GIS coordinator that's works on mapping and asset management. As part of our initiative to push information out to the public and to the counselors. Our goal is to have maps on our website. You can see what work's happening, utility work, paving, street paving going on. We're excited though to bring someone on June 1st. There's some standard time in that position. The entry level position, the engineering department is associate engineer, so it's someone not a degree engineer, but someone maybe with construction background or permitting background. We do have one vacancy, and we're aware of another person leaving in July from extended leave. So we will be down potentially 2 spots. So that's doing utility oversight, responses to patches, general complaints that come permitting. So it's going to hurt a lot, and that we have one position posted right now, which we're very.
And you think it's a sufficient salary to attract that?
Typically with that salary, we're attracting folks within city government. And once in a while, we'll get a candidate who's qualified, maybe a retiree or some construction background, and they apply for that. I think it depends on the time and the job market. So. I'd be happy to report back to you next year on our.
Sure, I'd like to keep track because the engineering department has to do all the designs, the plans throughout the city, and if we don't have that adequately staffed, our projects aren't getting done, and so it's very, very important that we staff and effectively doing a great job. The $3 million that the ARPA funds were supposed to be for sweeping and sewer. Have you got any investments in the sewer planning?
Yes, so there's $5.5 million for sewage and stormwater, $500,000 for street treatment service. And yes, we have been making progress. We just awarded a contract using CFP dollars to clean and investigate 22 miles of sewer. No hotspot issues where Dave and his crew are responding to. Critical crossings under 95, under the interstates and the train tracks. That if fail are incredibly difficult to repair. And we spoke about being a bit more proactive in our responses. This is a proactive. We want to get to the sewers to maintain them and possibly line them before they fail. We realized some 75% savings when we can maintain a pipe rather than dig out of the place. We do have $3.3 million in ARPA dollars ready to respond to those findings of our sewer investigations. And again, that's another awarded contract which happened this week at the Board of Contract and Supply. So this brings our ability to respond from, and doing all these findings and creating a contract to put out to, hey, if you find something critical, we'll have someone there next day. Speaking about grant writing, we've been working with the finance department for just about a year now, talking about permission process. We were awarded forgivable loans with Clean Water Revolving Fund around infrastructure bank. And that'll work towards satisfying requirements of our stormwater consent decree. So this is one project to control pollutants in certain water bodies and install controls to remove them before they reach the water bodies. The forgivable loan was in the amount of 40%, $400,000. Free money coming into the city. That's going to kick off in the coming weeks.
And with that investment, where are we with complying with that consent decree? I think we're pretty far behind, aren't we?
We are still more behind, but we've made significant progress in the past couple of years. We keep chipping away projects through CIP. When they were nearing completion on is urban ag stormwater improvements, so we grab. That's something that's been kicking around for many years, and I'm happy to say it's going to be done in 2023. We also continue with illicit discharge detection. So these are places where we know we have stormwater discharges when it's dry. Really should be having stormwater discharges when they're dry. So do some testing, identify some parameters, and say, you know what? Speak power core involved. Maybe someone's flushing their toilet to a storm sewer. Maybe someone's discharging laundry. Maybe there's oil in the storm system. So we're wrapping up about a year's worth of investigation with that. We should hopefully continue using markets like
Excellent. So I have a question specifically on our sewer capacity to handle emergency sewer situations. So we had one on in my ward recently, and we had to contract with a truck with the scope to scope the line. We had to take the rest of the DPW workers away from their other jobs so that they could tend to a sewer emergency. And I'm wondering if that's, if we have is that the way it's usually handled, that we have to divert our DPW, from other situations when we have a sewer emergency?
Generally, I would say yes, but if you want to also.
Well, the Paris.
Yes, I am.
Right, so the situation there was, they kept falling with, or we check out line, it's fine. Then we determined we were gonna camera the line. We only had a push camera at the time. So we put our push camera through, and we noticed that there was something possibly broken. Push cameras are full right here, great picture. Since then, we have, engineering got us a CCTV photo system that is more mechanical, we can zoom. But to do that type of work with the money people have in my division, we have to take my construction field for that, and we're certified, national certified. Identifying problems in the line and take that through, but it's a big setup for us, for what I have. So we go all we can when we can. We try to do it once a week. Sometimes that don't happen when we have other children. So the people we had on that was I got the truck to sit the line during rain events, and while they were doing the construction job, we had highest and what that was extremely out of the scope of our record. Go through the woods into the hospital, and it was a very, very large job for it.
I think this is my concern, and thank you so much, and you guys did a great job. I was so impressed. I'm just concerned because we have a family sewer system. We've got a very old sewer system that is failing, and I just feel that we're not prepared for what I'm sure is going to be increased emergencies. So I'm just, doing the SOS on that because we've not been funding our sewer repairs. And so I appreciate the proactive planning that you're doing. You said 22 miles. How many miles of sewer do we have?
We've got 450, so we have 50 plus.
Yeah.
And when we're
money can be spent on a lot of different ways. The reason we're investigating 22 miles is to prepare ourselves for future projects. Bipartisan infrastructure law is one of those where we can apply for sewer repair. So these findings could prepare us better for future funding opportunities. Not necessarily the city, but that's what we're trying to.
And let me just ask you this, we have a miscellaneous project expense for 15,000 sewer construction, what is that for?
The fountains,
Fountains?
yes,
Which fountains?
the, Deep Squall,
Pedro Hill.
Okay.
and the, Holy Ghost, and.
Longo Square.
Longo Square.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And then, the other, just very quickly, because I know we're late, I just will also say that I'm really, really upset about, and have been for a very long time, about the fine situation and the fact we're not collecting our funds. We can't find, people, we're not going to take their behavior. And I'm talking about the repeat offenders on big dumpsters. These people should be held accountable, and in my opinion, on those commercial situations, I think that they should have escalated fines. If they're repeat offenders, I feel some of them are just, working that into their budget model, they're able to pay a fine and then just continue doing their, not taking care of their trash. So
Part of the, I'm sorry,
I really would like a report back on what's getting done on that, to see how we can handle those more efficiently, because I think that's really urgent situation.
I don't disagree, and I will say that part of the funding that we're requesting as part of the littering and commercial corridor initiatives relate to exactly that issue. The corridors where the dumpsters are overflowing, so that's what part of that funding is meant to try to address.
That's okay, and then 2 more, the parking meters. It's just not this is not a sustainable approach to our. I think it's, we're missing revenue. They're not working, they haven't been for a while, so we need to figure out what we're doing. Parking meters. And then, also I have a quick question, because, I appreciate the fact we're going to start spending money on emergency sidewalk repair. I need to know how it is that you're going to figure out what's
an emergency and what's
exactly. We have been accumulating lists. Actually, most of mine are going to 311.
Sure.
And I just need to know how it is you plan on doing that.
I think right now, most of those requests do come from 311. And so, that we've had a capacity issue in how to address, there's been this kind of mushy looking list, not even a list of sidewalk repair needs. And I think that with more resources as we're asking for, we'll be able to respond better to those smaller kinds of repairs. And 311 is the usual conduit.
Do you have a list from 311 on repeat calls on certain sidewalks? Or how are you going to address this when you start doing these repairs?
I'm looking at Craig and Sal, because we find out who owns it. So in terms of like 311s, if I have a sidewalk that needs attention and I put in a 311, who gets it and how long? If I repeatedly make that request, where's that queue? Yeah, like a trip hazard or, something's coming up or.
Investigator. I would make it safe for now until, we found that we have the sidewalks, so we will work. First, we work down, eventually we'll get back to that.
So I'm confused. So if somebody comes in with a sidewalk issue on 311, you have been sending people out to look at them already?
We go look at it first. Sure, we can safe now.
And you're doing that already, or you will be doing that?
Doing it now. Been doing it.
This news to me. I would love to hear, we need some sort of report back on that, because we answer those calls all the time. It would be great to have a report back. All right, I just been honored before. Yes, go ahead, Councilor Burgess.
Thank you.
Quick one.
Sure. Okay. On those how the 311 report to you though, like how, like I called today, right? I had this, the truck didn't pick up my trash. Is anything they go, yeah, we will pass, we give you a reference number, write the reference number, and we will take care. Click. So after
And
that,
what happens after that?
yeah, so how you get the report I call, like how many hours will take from downstairs to you?
Well, so those individually, it depends on the topic, right? Do you want to help me out with this one?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have done yet, but that department, they typically get all of the internal 311s and they pretty much disperse it out into the departments in the city. So we typically have one DPW, like NCCS liaison, that gentleman at that office will kind of work and go divert it to each division head. And then the division head works within their division to address it. So pretty much like, for example, Dave, like his numbers on 311 are pretty great. So, for example, like in 2020, he received 264 311s, he closed 259. In 2021, he received 421 and closed 427. So he maintains all of his 311s that go to sewer, and it's the same for each division. So it kind of depends on what division the issue is under, and he'll get diverted to that.
So we report it every day or every week? How he get the report to you? He get it the same day they call, or he get it 24 hours later, or 78 hours later?
So I think the resident submits it, MCCS reviews it, and then they divert it to one of our division heads. And then they will review it. I'm not sure exactly.
You haven't answered the question. How many hours will take my request, my problem to get to the Department of DPW from here?
I think it depends on the issue. I mean, if you submit it maybe at 5 o'clock on Friday, it might take till Monday morning for the MCS staff to review it and then send it. So I'm not really sure. I think that would maybe be an MCCS.
What about if I call Monday?
I'm not sure that, again, that's an MCCS.
So
operation.
that means 311 is not working very well, like we thinking it's working
No,
on.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I can't tell you what their operations for timing are, but I'm assuming it's within a day or two. But again, don't hold me on that. But I'm sure you could ask the director of MCCS and she'd be able to tell you, hey, this came in from a resident on Monday and we got it to DPW in 10 hours or 5 hours. I don't know, but she would be probably the best person to answer that specific question.
That's the issue. There is a missing communication between the two departments, and that's why that.
And I know she's working hard. on it. Yeah.
I mean, so.
Thank you.
You want.
I'm not.
Thank you.
First, Chris, I was probably gonna be directed at you. Yeah, exactly. The administration DPW, I have 2 accounts payable officers and you only have 1 funded. I have 2 actively department.
Okay, we will have, there were some difficulties in getting the budget submission to finance, and so we are working our best to clean through those things. But if there is a FTE that is not included here, we'll need to add it in, so I'll need to go through that roster and double check.
And this is done, of course, I don't understand, I'm getting concerned about it, but it's getting really.
It certainly is, and this is part of the reason why we're trying to integrate higher level staff into the departmental budget process. And so, yes, we will review that, and we may need to add that FTE back in. But we did have some significant struggles with the budget that was submitted to finance and reviewing.
I think one of the old salaries is too high, and so that does offset your senior person.
Okay.
I'll follow up on that after. Craig, the GIS person, is that a transfer from an active city position, or is that a new position in addition to the city?
That was a new position last year, for last year's budget. We did have a transfer initially filled out. Expected hire is an extra.
State job, can you tell me what the $250,000 contract is for?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I was
This
looking
is
at that.
this is from the department, they got a $250,000 contract and state job.
Yes, that's the towing contract that was this last year. Actually. Yeah.
Please tell me if you're not ready to do that, please tell me. Just so you know, I've been at, the legal, going. It's from the city because they did not have questions, so are you giving them the photos?
No, so the litigation paused all of that, right? And it only just resumed within the last month.
And you have state government did not give that bid on the photos.
So I think that we will need to go back.
It's going out to our, it's going back out to bid, it's not.
Yeah, you can look at it. Yeah, left there.
Okay. All right, we'll need to go back and look into what contract that's for.
That was going back out to bid.
It is, yes, that's going back out to RFP, and so we will need to work with the department to review that contract list more thoroughly, because I quite frankly do not manage that contract, so I'm not quite sure what it's for.
Two other just follow-up, waste management contracts, as of July 2020, July 1st, 2021, there was supposed to be no cost to the constituents for mattress collections. I sent an email out, and asked for some information and never got any information from the Department of Public Works. Actually, I think the deputy director just read it today. I asked for the number of mattresses collected, how much is left in the mattress fund, did that mattress fund even get used properly? I got from the director at the time, we're on the same page, and we get it operationalized. Did you get it operationalized?
I'm not sure. So part of the contract.
Yeah, so part of the contract was that, that's why I actually had an email from the former director to here. Just they, at that time, the current administration didn't have that happen, so it did not come up with it. So did the city receive the proper money from waste management? And did it get negotiated in the next contract? It is a current negotiated for the current contract. And there is always 32,000 in there for public education. Just so the people don't be, there's 32,000 for replacement costs. That was in the annual budget. One last question. Does your department have anything to do when they move the conduit cameras, the speed cameras to the speed cameras and the radar cameras? Does your department have any of the site at all?
We don't, well, maybe you want to talk about that. I mean, it's managed by public safety.
It's an enforcement operation, it's made by police, and especially speed cameras, making recommendations for locations. And also community science.
So your recommendation for relocation is based on what?
Data. Based on access, speeding data that we have, and so forth. We're gonna, basically, we look at, we violations, get into the terms of each cameras, and so forth. This is actually a pretty good process.
Okay. Go ahead. All right. Anything else? We've had a long night and I really can't thank all of you enough for everything you do for our city. So, sorry, of course, we have to have a house, but you guys are very important and I appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion to adjourn. Seconded by Councilor Hart. And then motion to adjourn. And then.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. By Councilor Anderson, seconded by Councilor Tangent.